Okay, hello. This is the November video chat. Um, some news. I guess I'll start with the stop killing games stuff first. The what? Yeah, I guess the big news on that is the UK Parliament had a hearing on it. Really, it's almost as if nothing happened in some ways, but I mean, from where it was earlier. Here's where I didn't have high expectations for the UK, and it exceeded my absolute bare minimum one, so that's something. But uh, see, from my perspective, several people, I think maybe even the majority of members of parliament that were present said that this is a problem, we should do something. And then the member representing government said, yeah, we're not going to. And then they read a statement that kind of feels like it was written by Video Games Europe. For that kind of what it so they decided they weren't going to do anything. That said, those were just the members of parliament showing up, and the majority probably just doesn't consider this worth acting on. Now, the takeaway from this, here's where I'm honestly confused where how this is going to go at this point. But the UK should always be viewed as like kind of a bonus avenue that we were trying to exhaust all options. But the what the it doesn't have as strong a legal basis for trying to stop games from being destroyed. But there are some provisions that said the industry's behavior is so bad, it is a very strong case that it's already violating existing laws, and nobody's pressing on it. So the UK Parliament was to introduce new laws, which they said no. So two things happened there that I appreciate. One, we got a clear answer, and two, the members of parliament actually did represent or at least some of them represented our position that the games shouldn't be destroyed, and it was a far better answer than what the Department of Culture, Media, and Sport gave, which just didn't even address the problem. So what? So at least we were accurately represented, even though the answer from government still felt a little bit like it was kind of dodging some aspects of it. So the part that where it gets into, so it's failed on that point. The part where it gets confusing to me is, what's it called? The Digital Media DMCC. I forget what it stands for. Under the new law, it sounds like the practice of companies releasing the game and giving no time frame whatsoever how long they're going to last. So, again, the spectrum is 8 days to over 20 years going, and they're not going to tell you any of that. When the legality of that and what the remedy is and the process of that is, that's still all just a complete fog to me. It's kind of like the older videos I had on it, where I think Parliament was saying trading standards was going to have to resolve it. From what I've heard, trading standards is not well equipped to resolve it. And was it the Competition and Markets Authority is probably going to have a better grasp on it. So I'm not sure in whose jurisdiction that falls. And what they decide on that, it could go several different ways. But here's the most optimistic. Okay, I'll give the two most optimistic scenarios. One would be if they decide that, yes, this is a violation, and so when a game shuts down and then they never gave the customer any time indicator when they bought it, like when that was going to happen, then best case scenario, which I'd be skeptical on, would be they could actually collectively fine the companies every time they did that. Which might create an incentive for them to start having end-of-life plans so they don't get fined. Another scenario which might be more likely is they don't take collective action, but it could be if you're in the UK and you file a complaint, then they process it and you get refunded for the game you bought. Now, what the time span on that would be, I have no idea. I heard one person saying possibly 6 years. So if they shut down the game like in under 6 years from when you bought it, like let's say Anthem or in my case New World, then you might be able to get all your money back as a UK citizen. So there's a possibility that even if they don't change the law or resolve any of this, a process gets established that if when you start buying online-only games in the UK and then they shut down early, or early, they're not giving any time frame. If they shut down within whatever time frame gets established, or maybe it doesn't, then you can get a full refund. So in other words, you could start gaming for free in the UK. That's a real possibility. I think under the previous law, what's more likely is you get a remedy, but the game company would decide what the remedy is. So like in the case of The Crew, you might get a free copy of The Crew 2 or something like that. So that's not as good, but I think there actually is a real possibility of pro-consumer rights coming from this. That said, that wasn't the goal, so it's still kind of a failure in that regard. But it's still not fully resolved, and it's in a less frustrating place than it was just getting the answer from the Department of Culture, Media, and Sport, because that answer was garbage. Like that, it's like they were answering a different question than the one that was being asked. So, yeah, we're not going to have a full victory in the UK for sure. Like at that point, I can say that much. But again, let's say if people started doing refunds in the UK every time there's a game shutdown, I mean, one, that's going to be great for the customer on that end, even though, again, that's not really the goal from what I'm going for. But I think what might small chance of happening is if that takes hold and that's established what the process is, then the amount of people getting refunds, I think, would be relatively small, that the games industry wouldn't really care. So let's say this got resolved by the time Anthem got shut. It won't happen that fast, but as an example, then let's say the Competition and Markets Authority received a few thousand complaints on it, and then everybody got refunded. Well, that money would be a drop in the bucket to a company like EA, so they could ignore that. But what they might not like is the sort of narrative coming from that, hey, you can game for free and get all your money back for online-only games in the UK, for ones that don't let you play once they shut down or don't give you, expiration date, like World of Warcraft. You pay for your 30 days and then it's up. So if you're looking at the UK from a bonus perspective, there might still be some opportunities. So, but again, I'm not sure what the procedure is for Competition and Markets Authority and Trading Standards. I'm still kind of getting some advice on that. I don't think there's a point to it, but we could if people really wanted to, because I'm just guessing. One, I don't think we're going to get another 100K signature petition passed, but if I really wanted to, I'm pretty sure we could get another 10,000 signature petition passed, where we basically be compromising out the gate and focusing specifically on lack of expiration dates, because that's the part that could violate existing law. So but the reason I think that's probably not worth it is because we saw how bad the answer was the first time. They might just say the same thing and then modify it a little bit, saying, oh, you can go through Competition and Markets Authority or Trading Standards, and then just wash their hands of that anyway. So even though there probably is a legal violation going on there, they would say, well, we already have systems in place. We're not going to pass a new law on it. So, and plus the remedy, even if that went forward, I think that's probably a dead end doing it that way, because like I mentioned in one of my videos, what might come from that is they have to have a label that says supported for at least for a minimum of 2 years. Well, that doesn't save anything. It puts more burden on the company to have to support it that long. and like it doesn't save the game. So that would just be like a long dead end. But if they can do it so that everybody just keeps getting refunds, that's still a win for customers if we can do it that way. And that might pressure companies in the sense that they don't like this narrative, so that yes, live service games means they all end up being free almost if in the UK. So again, I'm not saying it necessarily gets there, but that's one possible avenue I'm seeing. But so anyway, we'll see how it plays out. Okay, so that's the stop killing game stuff. Oh yeah, I guess people are asking about the EU. The EU's a longer road, and it does have a much stronger legal foundation on this. So that's a whole mess of things, that some of which I think I'm not supposed to talk about yet. So I'll be able to talk about all this stuff in like a year or two, but a lot of it I can't right now because we have seen how the industry, they're looking for reasons to tear it all down. So let's see. Okay, yeah, for videos, I don't know which one's going to be next, Freeman's Mind or the Christmas episode, though I'm probably going to have to prioritize a Christmas episode just because that has a harder deadline. But it better be shorter than the Alan Wake episode. I didn't mean for Alan Wake to go on so long, but things just kept coming up that I wanted to talk about in it. But the general order is one of those next. Then I think there'll have to be the follow-up after Christmas because there's not going to be enough time to do both of them. And then probably a lot more Freeman's Mind and Game Dungeons. So I've been kind of scrambling to try and get everything done. This video started late for technical reasons. One thing I did, which ate up time that I probably shouldn't have, I finally upgraded Windows 10 to a more recent version of Windows 10. So now I'm on Windows 10 22H2. Before it was several years older, and overall I'm running into a few more problems. It's mostly been okay. The part that it's really screwed up are like third-party stuff to modify the GUI. So that's I'm still trying to figure that out. Right now it's like functional but partially broken as far as the GUI. But actually at the last minute, within 5 minutes before starting this, oh man, okay, a long and not that interesting story, I guess. But anyway, most of this was just like a big hassle. I was going through like this checklist of like hundreds of items of things of not only for Windows, but like programs I use and things I configured. So that took days for me to go through and iron that out. And it's mostly all set up now. But late in that process, I've been using older drivers for my video card because they've been stable. I think here I can give the number for NVIDIA. They are, in case you're having problems with an NVIDIA card, I can recommend the drivers 537.58. So I figure, well, okay, it's been years. Since I'm updating Windows, I did some research, and there were a lot of people online saying version 566.36 was pretty stable, and that one was pretty good. So I figure, okay, well, this is more recent Windows. In the past, I've tried other more recent drivers for NVIDIA, and then after a couple of days, I usually end up blue screening. And it's usually not through games. It's usually through like the web browser or something when you look at like what triggered it. Like with Firefox, man. So I figure, okay, well, I'm doing a newer one. So I was using 566.36 for a couple days. Then I finally hooked up VR. I used it for a little bit. And I'm thinking, okay, I need to configure a few more things. I'll reboot and then I'll make a disk image, just sort of a checkpoint. Oh man. I rebooted, and at first I didn't get a display signal. I mean, this is after already running VR, you know, so I tested it worked in 3D and everything. And then, so I forcibly turn the power off, turn it on again. It boots in the Windows, but then the resolution's really low. So I'm thinking, uh-oh, something's wrong. And I go into the device manager, and it's saying, I wish I remember what the message was. I forget the exact wording, but under NVIDIA drivers, it showed a problem, and it said something like, this driver is inappropriate for Windows or something like that. It was more than just it couldn't find the driver. It's like they're saying this is like the wrong thing. So what I did, so I figured, okay, as an experiment, I tried just reinstalling the driver right then and there, and then it went through the process, but it didn't change the resolution still. So this is being stubborn. So I'm thinking, all right, fine. I reboot, and so I'm thinking, okay, I'll just uninstall this. I'll reboot in safe mode, use display driver uninstaller, wipe it, or I'll go back to the old ones because I figure, okay, this is screwed up, whatever's going on. I reboot, I can't post. I can't get any signal at all. Like, you know, I turned the power supply off, like waited like a minute to let the capacitors discharge, turn on. I tried hooking up a different monitor, tried different ports on the car. Like, it will not post. Like, I can't get any signal. The way I finally ended up fixing that was I had to take my whole computer apart, took out the video card, put in another one I have. That posted. As soon as I did that, I took it out, put it in my original, then I could post again, like, okay, fine. And then, I said 566.36. So then I reinstalled the old ones, and then I'm back on the old ones from 2023. And things have been okay since. I'm pretty sure it was the drivers, because the only two big things that changed were, you know, I updated to Windows 22H2, and I updated the NVIDIA drivers. So yeah, if you have problems, 537.58 been like a rock for me for years. So but yeah, man, for it to trip, I don't even know how they did that to trip it up so that like the BIOS won't even post. You know, I can't even get a signal. So anyway, getting back to the Twitch stuff, why it was late, I was getting OBS set up. I had already set up OBS earlier, so I figured, okay, this should be good. And then, 5 minutes before I'm ready to start, I'm getting this error message. I'm thinking, wait, what the hell's happening? And then, so the way I usually do this is I stream the signal out using the CPU, and then I record at a real high bit rate using the GPU locally, and then recompress it later. So that way to reduce any stuttering. And well, it said that it couldn't record to the GPU, and please update your drivers, your video card drivers. I'm thinking, oh hell no. So what I did is real quick, I uninstalled the most recent version of OBS, installed the old one I was using, and now it all works. So it's yeah, I made it just in time, or a few minutes late. So yeah, another program I'll recommend to anyone wishing to update or experiment is was it Macrium Reflect? That's what I've been using to make disk images. So that way you can make just a complete disk image of your C drive. That way, then you can experiment with whatever the hell you want, and if you really screw it up, you can restore it. Yeah, maybe make a rescue USB first, but yeah, it's and then I think it was yesterday there was an article where saying Microsoft admits all the core features of Windows 11 are broken, and I posted that on Twitter. Actually, here, let me I'll give a link to this if I can find it. I posted that on Twitter, and somebody who used to work at Microsoft replied on it, and it unfortunately sounds like kind of like the worst case scenario here of what he was saying. It's kind of what I was hoping wasn't the case. Okay, let me get a link here. I'm always a bit confused on how to share the threads on Twitter, but here, I'll put it in the chat. I think this is it. Okay. Yeah, they're saying they didn't work on any OS features. They're originally part of the Azure AI org. And since leadership was trying to force feed AI into everything, we touched pretty much every feature that comes to mind. There were a number of issues that were heavily prevalent in the development process, even if we put aside bad leadership. There was almost no pushback from middle management or team leads. They just accepted the work pushed onto them and their teams with no question. Even if they involved having an entire team's work being dumped on one or two people. Another issue is that the 30% AI code usage is likely to not be an exaggeration. The number of times someone used Copilot to create their code, slightly modified it, and attempted to push it to main is staggering. What makes it worse is the almost total lack of proper code review from even devs at the senior and lead levels. Who they actually provide proper scrutiny towards when it comes to pull requests is a separate can of worms. So long as the feature looks like it works and works sometimes and meets the deadline, leadership didn't give a damn whether it worked well or not. Yeah, and they're saying too long didn't read. MSFT management is hot garbage and no one is keeping them in check. So it sounds, because there was that quote Microsoft made earlier this year about 30% of their were, the CEO, Satya Nadella, estimated about 30% of the code for Windows was being written by AI. And I was hoping he was lying and just saying that to impress investors who don't know any better, and they'll think like, oh, that sounds great. Whereas people who actually do know a thing or two about programming knows that that's not good. You don't want that for, low-level programming for an operating system run by like a billion devices. That's not what AI coding is good for. AI coding is good for stuff that either you don't know how to code and you need to do something really basic, or it's stuff that maybe it's something really simple. You want something fast and sloppy, or something like that. So yeah, that's scary. So that's the reason I'm not on Windows 11. Look, if I was hearing Windows 11 was doing great and had a lot of annoyances, I have faith I could get in there, spend a few days figuring out how to strip out or block or disable all the big annoyances and get it running more or less okay. So, but, I mean, this is not good. Or maybe it's a blessing in disguise, because, look, I honestly hope this pushes more people to Linux that can make the jump. I'm unfortunately doing too many things that I really care about that I think at this point in time are literally not possible on Linux. I hope that changes. Oh, somebody's saying, ever thought about switching to Linux? Okay, well, again, I have my list of hundreds of items, but there's a few things right now that are keeping me off Linux. The big one for me personally is stereoscopic gaming. So in other words, it's a 3D game, but you're running it in real 3D inside VR. So the game might not be designed may never be designed for VR, but with hacks you can render it at different angles for each eye. And really, if you're looking forward, I'd say it's about 90% as good as native VR for my taste. So that, put it in perspective, earlier, I finally played through all of Quake 2 and the expansions and the new one with Call of the Machine. I did the whole thing in VR, in stereoscopic. And after that, since that worked well, what I was playing for a couple days before I did the upgrade, and I'll get back to it now, is Sin. I was replaying some of Sin, and because that's the Quake 2 engine. And I was thinking, you know, after I did Quake 2, see, VR isn't the best for gaming, but it's the best for immersion. So like on Quake 2, I was playing on easy mode, and what and kind of going through it slowly, because if I go through real rapidly, that's kind of disorienting, doesn't feel as good. But what but there was one level I was thinking, yeah, this might be kind of fun to play like normally, like with Twitch reactions on a harder difficulty. So so after I had beaten the game, I went back and replayed that level just normally on my screen, and my first thought was, wow, this is like looking at a postcard. Like, because I kind of felt like I was there when I played it in VR, and then playing on here, it's just like, well, if you look at a postcard of a place you actually were, yeah, you see it, but it's just not the same. So that's how I was feeling about it. So for games for on Windows, the way to do that for most games that don't support it natively, sometimes for a few games there are VR mods that people have made. Like, I think Luke Ross has made several of those. Or yeah, for Unreal Engine, and yeah, the Unreal Engine has an injector, so almost any Unreal 4 and 5 engine games you can get native VR on, or close to native, and it looks great. But for games that don't have any of that, the three main ways I have found are VorpX is probably the best when it works properly. Geo 11, which is kind of like an offshoot of like NVIDIA's old 3D vision drivers, and was it Depth or Super Depth 3D, which uses kind of a Z buffer wraparound method. That one's not as good and has more artifacts, and it's such a pain in the ass to set up sometimes. But it can look all right depending on the game. With Linux, I think none of those work. So you're talking about hundreds of games you're giving up in stereoscopic for Linux at this point in time. I hope that changes, but that's like too big an ask for me. There's smaller things like I've heard some horror stories about audio processing on Linux before, where people will like output the audio from editing into a project, and that corrupts, but there was no error message about that. And it doesn't like corrupt as in it's like unreadable, so it's real obvious. It's like there are glitches in there you don't even know about. And I heard that. I think that scared the hell out of me when that actually happened for someone who submitted some audio work to me where they were editing in Linux, but they exported it. I forget what software they were using. So that's like a nightmare scenario for me for something like that. For some older games, it's Linux is definitely in a better state, but it's not like completely there. Especially if you're trying to make them look their best with, like, yeah, if you want to force hardware anti-aliasing on older games, that's much more of a crapshoot on Linux. Let's see, what are some other things? I guess with audio editing, I use software that makes it real easy to remove like subtle pops and clicks. Maybe there's an equivalent on Linux. I'd have to look into that. With video editing, I guess my video editing is usually kind of basic, but there's two things. Well, there's pretty good noise removal software sometimes when I use that, but that's not too often. The bigger issue, which I do use more often, is a video editor that can do lossless exporting. So in other words, like, it's not converting the color space, it's keeping it at RGB, sRGB that you record off the screen. I have use for that sometimes, especially on like older ones, where I don't need to like introduce the compression. So, but yeah, I hope Linux does better, because man, Microsoft is really just like wrecking things. Okay, I should get to the actual submitted questions. I think some of this may come up some more. Let's see. Some of the Linux stuff. Okay. Okay. And okay, it just, the Reddit was stalling out on me for a second. First question is, someone who's an eccentric person like yourself with a somewhat unusual lifestyle, basically dedicating your life to making art. I wouldn't go that far, or you could argue if what I'm doing is even art. Maybe if I make the move, yeah. The only video I've made that, like if you had to ask me, like, which video of yours is art? If I had to pick one, I think it would be the amazing Halo video that I made, and the sequel. So yeah, if I was gonna try and present any of my videos as art, I think that's the one I would do. So, how do you meet your social needs? Or how did you meet your social needs? Be that maintaining friendships, family relationships, romantic pursuits. Well, I mean, for friendships, I mean, I knew most people through school. And then once I moved around, kind of lost contact with people. Like at the time, I ended up visiting like this hobby shop where they would have people doing stuff like, playing Magic or doing Dungeons and Dragons. And I just went there and asked if there's any sort of like group for games that'd be interested in having somebody new, and just kind of met some people that way. Let's see. Family relationships. Not haven't been as worried about, but I talk to my parents through video chat, kind of usually once a week. But my other relatives, I mean, sometimes talk to them through email, but they're all kind of spread out anyway. And it's like I never had like really strong connections to them anyway. I usually kind of met them through family reunions. Romantic pursuits is kind of dumb luck where I tried going on several dates. This is like, I guess, mid to late 2000s. And, I mean, they were okay, but it's like they never really went anywhere. So I decided, geez, I think I must have been on, I forget how many dates I went on. Probably something like a dozen. And I remember thinking, well, one, that not only kind of drains your resources slowly, especially as a guy, like paying for dinner and that sort of thing. But I kind of decided, I wasn't against the idea at all of like relationship or dating, but like the success ratio was pretty bad. So I figured, you know what, I'm just gonna like devote more of my time and energy on my own projects and just kind of go the mad scientist route and not worry about this so much. If something comes along, great, but I feel like I'm not gonna like kill myself trying to find one. And through dumb luck, I ended up, because she was a fan of Freeman's Mind, and even though she wasn't contacting me about dating, she, my now wife, emailed me about that. So we ended up having like some back and forth for a while. And then later we started doing video chats, and then, then she like talked me into coming to Poland, and it kind of worked out from there. So, but yeah, not everybody has that kind of luck or opportunity. So I guess try to join more social groups of things that you're interested in. Where, somebody's surprised I'm married. Yeah, I've been married 8 years now. So, what? So yeah, I guess you maybe shouldn't go like if you're not having luck with dates, just try to like expand your social circle where you just meet more people in general, and maybe through there you end up meeting somebody like that. Yeah, well, a different thing entirely. I mentioned before a few years back I read, was it the Art of War, because I was curious because it's cited so much. And my favorite quote from there was, "Opportunities multiply as they are seized." So it's kind of the same mentality where, if you don't know that many people, but you get to know a few more, and then maybe through them you can get to know others, and that you can kind of expand more so that you have kind of a larger social circle there. Somebody's saying, has anyone ever said you look like young Pepper Keenan from Corrosion of Conformity? I think there was one musician somebody said it looked like. Here, I'm looking up who that is now. Okay, young Pepper. Okay, see the one on the left there? There's like a group photo of the band. I'm not sure who's who here. Like there's one guy that looks more like the actor who plays like Bucky Barnes from the Marvel movies, just with long hair. But okay, let's see, what are the others? Oh, okay, maybe that's Let's see. I don't think I look like that one, but I might look like one of the other. Well, here, I'll show you I'll give a link to the picture I'm looking at. Okay, so which one? My face isn't too far off from the second one guy there. So, yeah, I'll have to put I'll try and put a link to them in the chat there. Yeah, my facial structure isn't too far from that photo. It isn't too far off from the second guy. But I don't know if that's who he was referring to. Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah, so I should go more of the submitted questions. I think Linux might be coming up again. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. What's your opinion on the new Steam hardware? Yeah, so Valve's going full throttle. So they already had the Steam Deck, and they announced the new Steam machine, the Steam Frame, the new kind of standalone VR, and the wasn't there something else that they added? But well, those are still two big ones. Yeah, I guess a lot of it's going to depend on the price. I hope they okay, someone's saying furthest on the left, but yeah, that's the guy who looks more like Bucky Barnes. Was it Sebastian Stan, or the actor's name? But someone's saying Half-Life 3. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, new Steam gamepad. Yeah. Well, we'll see about Half-Life 3. That would certainly add to the bundle. So the new Steam gamepad. Well, for me, the most interesting are the Steam machine and the Steam frame. But yeah, for the Steam machine, a lot of it depends on the price. I hope they can keep it as cheap as possible, but that might be tricky because they're going, this is happening right as we're having a RAM crisis, or I guess for DDR4 and 5. But it's the sort of thing where I personally am not that interested in it directly, but indirectly, I really hope it does well, because for two reasons. One, going back to what I said earlier, this could increase Linux adoption. I think it is going to be running Linux. So look, if they're encroaching into making Linux more of a gaming platform, they're trying to take away my Windows market share, I see that as only a positive thing, as someone who's not ready to move to Linux because I have to give up too much. But the more people that do get on Linux, then the more then the more maybe the ecosystem evolves to the point where it is a more viable thing for me. So let's see. So that's one reason. So honestly, the more people get on Linux, the better, even though I'm not willing to walk the walk on that, because but see, my use cases are kind of niche anyway. Most people aren't doing stereoscopic gaming, which from my perspective is I mean, I guess not odd, but it's like, to me, stereoscopic gaming and VR, I wouldn't call it the height of gaming because you can game for different reasons, but it is one of the most amazing experiences I think you can have on a computer, period. Like it's definitely the height, like kind of immersion, or just the kind of like the wow factor from gaming. Yeah. Actually, I would call it that. I think it's the height of the wow factor from gaming, like because the most like intricate gameplay or engrossing gameplay that doesn't necessarily happen on VR. I mean, that could even be on a simple 2D game, depending how, or like the best graphics are necessarily. You do take a speed performance hit running a VR, the but yeah, but just the immersion and just like blowing me away, like I'm in another world. Like to me, that's like such a fantastic thing. So yeah, okay. So the other reason I'm glad they're releasing the Steam Machine is the specs on the Steam Machine are relatively modest. Yeah, I forget. It's sort of like a lower mid-range GPU, I think, and what the I guess sort of like a modest I forget what the CPU is, but it's like all right. Yeah, it's like a 6-core thing. So you can do a whole lot of gaming on those specs. And see, I like that they're doing that because the narrative, right? I tend to be a couple years behind on like what the latest game is for multiple reasons, but the narrative I've been hearing is a lot of new games are just not optimized at all. And then you'll have games that look like they could have come out 10 years ago, but require 4 times the VRAM or something like that. So, well, okay, somebody's put a post about added support for NVIDIA 3D Vision to, no, NVIDIA's killed 3D Vision. Like, you can still run it on like old drivers, but it's dead. So, but Geo 11 sort of picked up the pieces from that. But yeah, NVIDIA is not supporting anything for like stereoscopic wrappers or that sort of thing anymore. But yeah, okay, so by having more modest specs, if the Steam Machine catches on, that's a big if. That could mean that could add like some sort of discipline back to like the AAA industry, that they realize they can't just code whatever the hell they want, push it out, and it runs like garbage, because that might start hurting sales. So if they know that they need to have the Steamish, like let's say the standard is something like 1080p 60 frames a second on the Steam Machine. If they know they have to hit that as a target, they may start reconsidering how they code the games, and basically start adding in some more optimization again, because then they realize, oh, well, we can't just slap this all and shove it out the door, because then it may not even run on the Steam Machine then, in which case we might be losing sales if that ends up being a significant market share. I wouldn't expect miracles. I think a lot of it's going to depend on the price. But it's certainly worth the attempt. So that would be great if the specs that are on the Steam Machine, you're for newer games, like there's plenty of games now I'm pretty sure couldn't run it at 60 frames a second, 1080. But for newer games, if AAA companies know they have to do that, then it could mean that, okay, you have the Steam Machine as like a baseline, and then if you want higher resolution or more frames per second, then you can buy, more powerful hardware, have something custom, and have it work out that way. So I hope, I hope that does catch on and kind of provides a baseline standard. Because, yeah, it's kind of like we've gone too far in the other direction, because there was a narrative for a long time that consoles were holding PC gaming back because they had to aim for, weaker hardware. So you'd have these developers that would make the console that they would have new games that look worse than games from years ago on PC because they're aiming for more, cut down hardware. Deus Ex Invisible War was an example of that. They couldn't have big levels because the Xbox didn't have the memory to process it. So it changed the development of the game. Well, I think that kind of ended. I mean, I would say for sure by the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One era. Like, you could argue it was kind of ending before that, where, I mean, you could say, yeah, technically, they might have, if you were developing a game exclusive, if you have a bunch of resources and we're developing it exclusively for PC, you could push things harder. But now it's like, I kind of feel like any game with a big budget, if they've made sacrifices, unless it's like an actual artistic direction, unless it's like a poor artistic direction decision, just from a technical standpoint, I'm almost thinking, who cares? And so any game from like 2014, 2015 onward, if it has a big budget, they all kind of look great to me in terms of the fidelity. So it's almost like we overcorrected. So now consoles aren't holding back anything, and it's the opposite, that like the PC is becoming kind of like, for some games, becoming kind of a wreck as far as optimization. So if Steam machines can rein that in, that would be great. But I'm more interested in just Linux gaining market share. I only see it as a positive. Now for the Steam frame, that one's ambitious of them in that I'm more, as much as I like VR, I'm skeptical how much that's going to take hold, because they're kind of competing against Meta on that. And I believe Meta, I think I've heard this before, that every headset Meta has sold has been under cost. Like, so they're eating money on their VR because they're trying to gain the market share, and they're they're trying to set up their own walled garden in addition to the openness. So the specs on the Steam frame sound like they're definitely going for trying to set up it's similar to like the new Steam machine, I like the name the internet's giving it, the Gabe Cube. That's a good name for it. Where lost my train of thought here. Okay, yeah. Okay, so it's kind of like a new entry-level version for VR, and they're depending on a lot of it for streaming, for your PCs doing, like, it does work as a standalone, but I think those are relatively modest specs. I mean, and it's using the PC as like the muscle if you want to run more powerful games. And that's good for, I guess that's going to be good for entry-level stuff, and for people who want like more like a full wireless experience. I'm kind of in the other end of the VR camp, where I've actually thrown my weight behind Pimax, because they have the big look for modern consumer headsets. You can get specialty stuff that costs a ridiculous amount, but they're the only game in town pushing the envelope on field of view, on the FOV, and that's what I care about the most. And they also have really high resolution, which can help for distance viewing in VR, especially. So, I mean, they're hardly perfect, but that's of course a wired connection. That's not a standalone thing, though. Really, until Pimax this year, even the industry had kind of stagnated on field of view for, I want to say, 6 or 7 years. So I'm really happy to see that increasing again. So I'm going for the full immersion thing, but look, more happening in the VR space is only a net positive, especially coming from somebody like Valve instead of Meta. Because Meta could be kind of strangling it slowly. but even though they did a lot for it in the past. So, I'm complaining about no stereoscopic options on Linux. Well, maybe that changes over time with Valve releasing the new Steam machine, trying to get an ecosystem going. I mean, that said, though, it is going to be on ARM, but I mean, you could still. So sometimes you see, once one company or one person does something in a way that gets a lot of publicity, then you start seeing copycats that can sometimes do it better, or sometimes they do it for a different platform. Like, I was running into that literally today, trying to find solutions to my issues on customizing the GUI on Windows 10. That, I'm trying to find something for the system tray. And I've been using Nexus Dock, but it has problems on it. It has all these great options that just aren't implemented well. It has bugs, and so I'm trying to find a substitute. Honestly, for what I'm doing, I'm not sure there is one now on more modern Windows 10, Windows 11. But while I was looking it up, I was seeing there were maybe half a dozen replacements for the start menu and the taskbar for Windows 11. And I was thinking, like, damn it, why can't... But they're like, most of them are like these really specific purpose where they're either trying to add some quality of life features, or they're trying to make the start menu and taskbar back the way it was on Windows 10 or even 7. I'm thinking, so it's like really narrow use, but I'm thinking this is only happening because Microsoft changed how it works on Windows 11 and people didn't like it. I mean, I was thinking, damn it, why can't we have something just more customizable where we can just kind of control more of the behavior and the appearance of it? But yeah, I don't know. I might have to take another hit on the GUI with Windows 22H2. So I'll see. I mean, as for the Steam controller, it's probably the best you can get for a controller for trying to run PC games also. I'm usually, for me, if it's any game where I have to aim at things in more than 4 directions, then I'm pretty much using the mouse and keyboard anyways, since the mouse is so much better for aiming. But if it's just, more of like a classic platformer or something you can, easily navigate with like a D-pad, then I'm usually just using a regular gamepad. So I don't have much of an opinion on the Steam controller, though. Like, if I had to have one controller to just run everything on PC, then I'm guessing they probably put some thought into it, where it might be one of the better all-in-one solutions, I guess. Even though for other games, having a mouse and keyboard would be better, or just having a dedicated gamepad would be better. But let's see. But yeah, I really hope VR gets more of a bump from what Valve's doing, though I would taper my expectations. Yeah, there was that quote by Palmer Luckey who said that, most people aren't like us, in terms of VR enthusiasts. That, like, you could give it away for free and they still wouldn't care about it. And there are real barriers to it, but it's like the end destination's worth it for me. But so yeah, I hope VR gets a boost, and I hope Linux gaming market share, moreover, gets a boost also. So that maybe in the future I can switch to Linux, because Windows is not doing it any favors from what and this is just me moving to their end of life for Windows 10. I mean, it sounds like Windows 11 is objectively worse on multiple things. So, and if they're writing so much of their code through AI, it's like Microsoft is like, they're eating themselves, like with what they're doing, so yeah. Oh yeah, that's the other thing for switching to Linux. Okay, so there's a few multimedia things that I haven't found a solution for. Maybe I could dance around them. Stereoscopic VR is a big one. VR support in general is a big one. Like, I don't know if you can run a Pimax on Linux. I have no idea. I think Pimax would be happy to support them if the market share was there, though. So, what? The other thing is, there's lots of things with Linux from my time monkeying with it that it's technically possible to do it, and you can do it, but then there's a lot of things that can go wrong, and there's poor documentation on how to fix it. So you feel like you're just stuck in the water, even for doing some comparatively simple things. Like my example before of like if I wanted to have downsampling in a game for a custom resolution. Actually, that's something I'm trying to do. Yeah, here. If anyone in the chat using Linux, maybe you can answer this question right off the top of your head. One of the things I want to do on Windows that I'm still messing around with, trying to get it working, because it doesn't work for me through Vorpex at the moment. They claim to support it, but it doesn't work for me, is running games at a higher resolution and refresh rate than your monitor supports, except it's in VR. For example, my VR headset runs at 90 hertz. My monitor does not run at 90 hertz. So I want to create a custom resolution for that runs at 90 hertz. If you use virtual desktop, it'll only mirror what's done on the monitor. Vorpex can intercept those signals sometimes. But so I basically want to make an imaginary monitor that, it doesn't exist, but I could tell a game to render to this monitor at like 90 hertz at like, let's say 4K or above. Because you really do want the higher resolution VR for the better the panel gets. Could I do that in Linux, like right now off the top of your head? So if I wanted to create like if I wanted to create a virtual 5K monitor that runs at 90 hertz, even though my monitor only goes up to 60 or something, could I do that? And then could I tell a game to render to that monitor? Like, let's say I turn off the regular monitor while I'm doing this, so that the VR intercepts that with something like virtual desktop, and then runs it to that. So, well, and anyway, the point is, there's lots of little things that I find I could just run into stumbling blocks with Linux. It's not that you don't run into them in Windows also, but it felt a lot more frequent to me in Linux when I was like 10 to 1 or something like that. Like, let's see, what's another example of something where, damn it, I was doing a lot also this, I should bring up my list. I'm trying to think of like something that's like, okay, so we have custom resolution. Yeah, well, custom resolutions is another one. So not just downsampling, but like, let's say I wanted the monitor to display at 1440 by 1080. That's another. Sometimes that works, but then sometimes it doesn't, and then you have to go down a rabbit hole. Or, what's another one? Damn it, I know I have more on this. Well, okay, we were talking about the audio stuff. Maybe all the audio stuff is worked out by now, and I'm using... My report on that isn't that old. It's a couple of years, but let's say I did have a problem. Like, how big a rabbit hole am I going down to kind of fix that? Yeah, like actually that's something I need to resolve right now. Since I've reinstalled, I was using VMware to run a virtual machine for some older games, and I was testing out Windows XP. And it ran fine, but then I noticed the sound was all garbled. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, that's another rabbit hole I need to go down through to figure out how to fix the sound inside that virtual machine. So you can just have random things pop up. Damn it, I know there. Oh yeah, like when I was using. See, this is something that's like real simple, but I didn't find it obvious answer on that. When I was using a distribution of Linux, I think it was just Ubuntu. Again, this is maybe it was a year old, okay, or several months old. So I was just being lazy and used what I had around because I was just trying to do something basic. I noticed the clipboard didn't always work. Like I would copy text and then hit, Control V to paste, and it just wouldn't appear like from a text editor. I'm thinking like, this should be pretty basic, but then that's probably gonna take some research to figure out. Anyway, the point is, when I switched to a new operating system, I would bet money I'm gonna have dozens of examples of small things I'm not really thinking about using like Windows, although clipboard, I'll get to that in a second, that I do think about, that I've forgotten about because I use them by default. Like, I think this is mostly resolved on Linux now, but having vsync on your desktop, you had to jump through some hoops for that on Linux for a long time. That might be worked out now, but that's something I haven't had to deal with since what? I guess since Windows 7 for me, since I went straight from XP to 7. So in some ways, Linux can remind me of some things that I had forgotten about in XP or sometimes even 98 that, let's see. I know there were more examples. And anyway, there's a certain cluster of things I know are out there that I won't really know and have a full list until I were to actually try to convert to it whole hog and, work it all out. But so again, the more people who get to Linux before me, the better, because then they'll be able to kind of solve that. One of the things I would be looking forward to on Linux is more GUI customization, because there's no way it's worse than Windows. It has to be a lot better than Windows, I'm sure. But the problem is, the OS is just sort of the vehicle to get to where you want to go. Okay, so yeah, I went off on a while on that one, but oh yeah, and on the reply, they were saying, do you think the new Steam VR might finally fix many gripes for VR video? No, but I think the Pimax does. Almost. And well, I can get it. I'm gonna go on too long about that anyway. Let's see. Oh yeah, and then somebody else was saying, I'm particularly interested in the fact that it can run non-VR games. I don't know if it's what Ross wants, but it might be closer to what he was thinking of for his virtual theater idea. No, in fact, it could be there's something I'm missing, but you've been able to run non-VR games if you're just fine with like just a flat virtual screen. I don't know, maybe 10 years now. I mean that. I guess if you wanted like a real big virtual screen, which it's not going to be that big because the limited field of view anyway. To me, there's not much point in gaming on VR if it's not in stereoscopic. Like, I'd rather just have a normal screen then. So, I mean, yeah, it can do that, but that's kind of like, I don't know. That's kind of like just a standard feature I wouldn't even think about. Now, if Valve introduces something that gets more 3D games that weren't made for VR working in stereoscopic, oh hell yeah, that's awesome. Like, but if anything less, not really. You can do that on almost any VR headset. Like right now, you might have to get like third-party software, but I mean, Steam VR has like a desktop view and like a theater mode already built in to it, but I mean, they all do that. So, do you still enjoy making Freeman's Mind? Well, I haven't done it in a while. I sure as hell enjoy it more than doing Stop Killing Game stuff. So I'm coming back to it. Oh yeah. Speaking of coming back, the clipboard I mentioned. That is one thing I noticed on Windows 22H2. Okay, so the clipboard has been getting worse and worse on Windows for a while now. I use a program called Clipboard Fusion, which it doesn't fix it, but it makes it better. like the scenario I hate that I feel like I'm being gaslit and that this didn't really used to happen, but now it sure as hell does. Where you highlight a block of text somewhere, you hit Control C, then you go to a text editor or something, hit Control V, and nothing happens. It's like it just never even happened. And this has become more of a pandemic on Windows. And I noticed from switching from 20H2 to 22H2, there were some new services that I added. So I tried to look these up the best I could. Yeah, actually, I'll get the name of one of them. And most of them I disabled because it sounds like I didn't need them. And then a couple were resistant to being disabled, like the normal methods of like using nsudo on survey-win and, forcibly disabling it didn't work. I found out you have to go through the registry for a lot of them. If some are curious, it's the HKLM system control set 001 services. And then change the start key to 4. That if you want to really rein in some services, that seems to have a decent track record. Not for everything. Windows has lots of tricks to try and re-enable crap that you don't want. But anyway, one of the new ones was clipboard user service. And at first I left that on because, well, first I tested disabling it and it wouldn't let me disable it. So it was being resistant about letting me turn that off. So what I did was, so I finally went to so first I decided, you know what? Clipboard on Windows 10 was already so bad that, that I figured, okay, you know what? If it needs another service just to make it work, fine. I don't care if it uses more resources, if that lets me copy and paste reliably. Well, not only did it not do that, which I found out later, this is the sort of thing I could have gaslit myself on, but I caught it in the act of happening. I highlighted a text block in a text editor. I hit Control X to cut it out because I wanted to move it to another text file. I hit Control V to paste it. Not only did it not paste, it pasted something that was older in the clipboard that, I had copied, several minutes ago. So I'm thinking, holy crap. I don't think I ever saw that in the earlier Windows 10 where it just vanished that, it cut the text block, but then pasted something older. I was thinking, because I think before it would just, nothing would paste so that you would know that like, okay, it didn't copy to the clipboard. So since then, I went to the registry and I disabled clipboard user service. Who the hell knows why Microsoft's so hell-bent on making sure that one stays enabled. But 20H2 didn't need it, so. Let's see. They just recently watched Crash. I got jump scared by your guest appearance. What was it like getting brought on to work with them? I don't remember I don't remember which one that it was. Like the jump scare. Oh yeah, somebody. Honestly, it was pretty minimal. They wanted to mention Stop Killing Games, and they were hoping to get me for they were hoping to get me for a cameo in it, and they said they wanted a jump scare like from I think it was something for like they wanted a Five Nights at Freddy's jump scare, and they explained to me what they were looking for, so I did it for them, sent them the footage, and that was that. So it's all kind of a blur to me. I was talking to so many people trying to do the promotions for Stop Killing Games. And somebody's asking, have you ever used everything from Void Tool, especially fast file search? I think I messed with that in the past. Isn't everything like more of a launcher or something? Or I might be mixing that up. I don't really like typing things out to launch things. I just like to do a few quick motions with my hand with like, a few clicks or mouse gestures, that sort of thing. But for search, I'm not using the search. I think I'm just using whatever comes with, what is it, Classic Shell, the start menu replacement. Yeah, that's kind of left over. I watched this video years back about kind of reining in Windows 10 by Freethy, except he uses the E's or threes. Yeah, I haven't checked up with this stuff in years, but if you want somebody who knows a lot about wrangling performance out of Windows and just turning off lots of crap, he knows a lot. However, I think I've said before, he sometimes goes overkill. So you're gonna have to you're gonna have to decide for yourself, like, if he's going too far in what he recommends. Yeah, like it's like the difference between somebody tuning their car versus like a drag strip racer who is trying to just shed all complete excess weight and turn the vehicle into a rocket, essentially. That's kind of what he does for Windows gaming. So if all you want to use Windows for is just turning it on and playing a game and get max performance, then yeah, you should follow his guides for sure. But if you want to do other things too, then use your discretion for his advice. But he knew so many tips for how to rein it in. Okay, yeah, I've barely gotten into the questions. I should get some more. And this one was automatically collapsed. Oh yeah, they're saying their youngest sister of 10 years old spends hours of her free time every day talking to AI bots. And in a lot of ways, it's replaced any actual close friends. If you had children, what would your approach to this be? Yeah, that's Black Mirror stuff. That's not good. I mean, yeah, that's not. Yeah, some comments replied that's not that's not healthy development. So, okay, if I stuff like that makes me glad I'm not a parent. But if I was that kid's parent, I'd have to put a stop to that, and I would kind of decide like what the best. It would probably depend on the kid what the best approach to that is. I mean, you're just gonna have to clamp down and stop that, and you're probably gonna have to sort of jumpstart the kid's kind of chance for a social life. Like maybe take them to find some hobbies that they can either they're interested in or they could tolerate, and then find some clubs or lessons or something that are affordable, or some might be free that you could take them to like meet other kids, essentially. Like I mean, it could be sports, or it could be. I mean, I'm not sure what, because it could be like an art class or something like that, So, what? So you have to do that. Now the kid's going to be upset and not understand. I mean, at 10 years old, I don't know. Maybe they would understand just begrudgingly, or maybe they wouldn't. I'm not enough of a child psychologist to know, but it could be, if you think they could understand, you have to explain that, like, it may not seem like it, and it's kind of slow and insidious and creeps in, but this is going to change how your brain works in a bad way. Like, you're going to be more like a zombie in the future if you keep doing this. It doesn't happen, in one day or 1 week, but this is going to creep in, and as your parent, I have to stop this. I know it's fun. I know you like it, but it's not good. Like, so that's one approach, and they might still kind of hate you for that and see you as the bad guy. Another approach might be to try to kind of put some more fear into them about what this could lead to. And one of my thoughts was, it's not an exact analogy, but there's an old Twilight Zone episode where this kid talks and sort of plays with his grandmother a lot. But then, one day the grandmother ends up dying. But then the kid starts talking to her on this play phone. And at first the parents think that, like, okay, the kid's just having a real hard time coping, and this is just his way of dealing with the death of the grandmother. But then later they find out that, like, there's details that the kid wouldn't know that he's hearing. They're like, what's going on? And I think at one point they even, like, the mother sneaks in and, like, takes the phone out of his hand and listens, and then she's, like, in shock because she hears the grandmother on the other end. And the climax of the episode is the kid wants to go visit grandma. And then, like, I think he throws himself into the pool to basically drown himself. And, like, it was a chilling episode. So I might try to, what? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of double talk. Is that just people screwing around in chat, or is there actual feedback on my end? If there's feedback on my end, everybody type that in capital letters. Otherwise, whatever. They can deal with the chat. But so I might show that saying, like, see, look, the kid was just talking to, was just pretending to talk to grandma, and then look where that went, I might also show them, it's not a direct link, but the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where, maybe that's a looser connection, but the idea is that, people were kind of I guess what the kid might protest and say, well, other kids at school talk to AI, why can't I? Or, and then just kind of show that, people used to be acting normally, but then they start acting really weird, and explain the same thing on some level is going to be happening to those kids that really use AI. Like, you're going to find that, they just can't think as clear. Like, again, it won't happen right away, but just over time, they'll find that they can't think as clearly, or you'll find that they're using these kind of odd phrases and how they talk that just seems weird. Because they're sort of subconsciously getting brainwashed by the AI. So, that I would try to, maybe get the kid, maybe scare the kid to some extent to try to make it stick some, as well as I could. I don't know, but just try to explain that this is going to mess you up later. Like, it doesn't, you may not think so, it may make you angry, but no, this is going to mess you up. Like, AI is, I'd have to think about how to present it, but yeah, I would basically ban the kid from doing that again. It might have to regulate what they're accessing, that sort of thing. Again, try to jumpstart, like, real social connections with the kid, take them to some places where they have a chance to make friends, that sort of thing. And let's see, okay, well, move on to another question. Oh yeah, well, is there any chance of Game Dungeon having obscure Amiga or DOS games again? Yes, 100%. Like, in fact, I might even overcorrect. And, like, after the follow-up episode, for all I know, maybe the next 20 episodes will be either games like that. That and Commodore 64. Those are the other ones. And I think I'm going to have to take just a super quick break and get some water again. So I'll be back in a second. I forgot to drink some for it. Yeah, for Amiga or DOS, usually I'm doing Amiga. Well, I say usually, I've only done it a little bit. Either if that was the best version of the game at the time, or if there was, I guess I haven't done that yet, but I might, if it was an exclusive. Because I usually gravitate towards whatever the best version is out of multiple options. But yeah, Commodore 64 is another one I want to get a lot more in. So yeah, don't worry, it's coming. Sorry, it's just, I'm behind on everything. But I'm still working on it. Okay. What shows have you binge watched in the past or recently? And if you can, what sci-fi show do you recommend to watch? Well, I haven't done like a lot of binge watching before because what I find is it sort of numbs you. Like the more, if you just watch one after the other, it sort of numbs you so you appreciate, or at least me, the the episodes the longer you go. And I like to kind of have it spaced out. Like we're, I mean, I haven't like really binged in like a long time. I mean, usually if I'm really, really liking a show, I might watch like 3 episodes or something in that. And then I'd rather just space it out because then I appreciate it more. I think the last one I really binge watched, geez, might have been like 20, 25 years ago with 24. 24 was like addictive watching. Like I rented some DVDs of it, and because it goes in real time in the show, and I for sure watched at least 4 episodes in a row. I can't remember if I did as many as 6, but I remember that's a show that keeps moving, so that helps with it too. But what sci-fi shows do I recommend to watch? That's a good question. Well, I finally did see Fallout. That one was good. Yeah, I think Fallout, the show, at least the first season, is what I think it's probably the best video game adaptation ever done. But yeah, I think the creators of that show get Fallout better than Bethesda does. So, like, it has that tone. It has that tone of like the brutality mixed in with the humor in the right way, So it definitely has the right tone for it all. Let's see, what are some other... Okay, well, here, let me look up sci-fi shows. One I enjoyed a lot was Wayward Pines. Just the first season, though. The second season I gave up on fast. It just felt like garbage. I won't spoil anything about it, just that it's like... I tend to like sci-fi mysteries. It's definitely that kind of thing. Okay, sci-fi shows. Let's see. I mean, there's some I've seen that are like, just kind of like okay, but I'm trying to think of ones I really liked. Well, yeah, I really have enjoyed From. That's... Let's see. Some of these I haven't... Well, a lot of these I haven't seen. I mean, I was just looking at a list that came up. Yeah, so many of these are just kind of okay. And well, Black Mirror, that's obvious. Let's see. Man, I should have had better answers, but I guess I'm drawing a blank. I mean, on a lot of these because I'm trying to... Okay, what are some other... Well, I mean, older ones. I think it got weaker as it went on, but I kind of liked Farscape, some of that one. See, the chat's welcome to recommend some. Oh yeah, yeah. See, there's so much sci-fi that's just kind of like okay, and it's not like that great. Is the problem? Well, I really like the '70s version of The Survivors, but that's more... I mean, that is sci-fi, but it's more like post-apocalypse. But let's see. Yeah, I mean, even... Yeah, I'm looking at this list, and it's all just like, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Or... Okay, to give you an example... well, maybe I should move on. Yeah. Well, okay, yeah, I even showed a clip of it in the Culpanata episode that showed the 100. It was okay. I mean, I skipped plenty of chunks of it. It wasn't that great, but it was like, I don't know if I would call it minimum viable product, but it was only like a notch or two above that. And then, let's see, there was... Man, I'm just... Well, I know a lot of people, maybe I didn't give it long enough. I watched the first episode of Fringe, and I wasn't really getting into it, but maybe it got better. I know that it's kind of a cult following. Yeah, see, there's another one that's like okay. The Man in the High Castle. I saw that one. Yeah, I'd say if you like Wolfenstein: The New Order, then you should definitely watch it. I mean, that's well, yeah. I think it's based on a Philip K. Dick novel, so that's probably where Wolfenstein: The New Order took its inspiration from in the first place. The plot is to basically that the Axis powers won in World War II, and then it's moved forward to like the 60s, I guess. Oh, okay, that one's not bad. The Battlestar Galactica remake, from the 2000s. I remember liking that. Let's see. Yeah, that was another one that was okay. Was it the... Oh, what the hell was that? I don't remember the name of it. Yeah, I've gotten in this habit now. When I watch a movie or a show, I add it to this list just so I know I've seen it before. So if like in 10 years I try to watch again, it's like, wait, this looks familiar. Have I seen this? I can just check the list. I've started doing that. Yeah, this is one that started off all right, but it was... Yeah, The Leftovers. It started off real promising, but then it just sort of meandered and didn't really go places. Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, there was it was okay, but it had some fun moments. Upload. That was... Yeah, I mentioned that one in, I think, the State of Mind episode. Altered Carbon, I watched the first season of. If you like sci-fi noir stuff, then you might like it more. I thought it was so-so, not that great. It had a really good scene, though, with when he checks into the hotel. That was the best scene out of everything. Yeah, I'm noticing, it's rare now to find shows that I feel like aren't wasting your time. That like, and I don't mean completely, like, even if a show's good, there's gonna be like at least a third of it that this is just filler, and it's not like particularly interesting filler. It's just we're going nowhere. Yeah, like what was it? I saw some of Silo was like that. Or yeah, the premise is interesting. I'm totally on board with the premise and the main plot, but there's so much filler in that. Like it's just like if I were to make movies like my way, I would like chop down every episode to like 10 minutes for what they have going on in there. But maybe the book's like that. I don't know. Okay, well, yeah, so I guess I don't have a lot of great answers. I'm looking myself. From was one I really liked. I'd say out of those, remember, I liked From quite a bit. Oh, somebody's saying, have you ever seen Stargate? I've seen the movie. Like, I know people rave about the series. I never actually got around to watching it. That's one of those things that's like on my to-watch list. I'll get to it eventually. Yeah, some shows. Yeah, there's some shows that are like more famous that I just never got around to. Like, yeah, like a few years back, Yeah, like I never actually seen Futurama until a few years back. That was pretty solid. Or another one I need to check out that I never saw was Quantum Leap. That's another show I was curious about. That, you know, just some I just missed, you know, but I can eventually get around to them. Yeah, somebody mentioned chat saying X Files. X Files I need to finish. I've made it into like season 5, I think. So yeah, there's plenty of X Files I haven't seen yet. Yeah, somebody's saying the original. Okay, somebody's saying the original Quantum Leap was great. Well, that's what I was planning to watch. So, let's see. What are some? Yeah, well, as for remakes that were all right, the Outer Limits remakes from the '90s, I remember them being pretty decent. So those were not bad. Yeah, in fact, there are multiple good episodes in those. I would definitely recommend that. Let's see. Oh yeah, well, I should move on more questions. I'm stalling. Well, not stall, idling again is what I'm doing. I really try to minimize that. Oh yeah, I didn't have a great answer for this one. What moment ruined something for you? A movie, game, show, etc. that you were really enjoying, and then boom, with one decision, it all went down the gutter. I know it's happened, but I was drawing blanks on what qualified. Like it was more or less like disappointing rather than. Ah, geez, I had examples too, and I forgot. Let's see, did I write that down or? Well, I mean, that doesn't. I was really enjoying the boom with one decision. It's usually not that abrupt, and if like, I mean, it sometimes is like okay. No, okay. So these were ones that I was enjoying it. See, I kind of mixed this up in my head. I thought it was like asking, like, oh, you like the original, but then not the sequel or the next thing. I had a few examples of that, but for ones where it starts, well, okay, yeah, I mentioned earlier, Wayward Pines. Second season is complete garbage. First season's great. So, let's see. What's another one that got ruined? See, so other times it's like more gradual, the quality loss, you know, so it's hard to point to any one thing. But yeah, like with, yeah, I mentioned before, like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. First half of that movie's awesome. Second half, there's not much there. And it's not like this abrupt cutoff, but it just doesn't feel that good, you know. So I'm saying Walking Dead got ruined. Yeah, see, Walking Dead, it's more of like a gradual quality decline, you know. Let's see, what's okay. Well, oh yeah, you're right. See, the chat's remembering what I forgot. They're saying wasn't Fahrenheit one of those experiences? You're enjoying it turned all flying kung fu shenanigans. Yeah, I mean the flying kung fu, it didn't like ruin the game for me, but it was definitely like a big drop off in quality for what they were, you know, for what they were building up. You know, I thought I was going to get more of like a Phantasmagoria 2 type experience, and instead, you know, mixed in with like a murder investigation. So, and instead, it's just like, yeah, let's just get completely stupid now, and it's they needed to. They needed to stick to one. You know, if you want to make a flying kung fu sci-fi thing that's not so serious, you should just go straight for that up front. Let people, yeah, like an example of a movie I like is Iron Monkey. It's just a kung fu over the top. Yeah, it's like an over the top kung fu kind of comedy movie, and it's fun, it's a blast, and I'm going in there expecting that. So, you know, I, I'm I would not mix that movie with something like the movie Seven, where it's like a gritty, intense, murder investigation movie. Those two aren't going to go together so well if you just start off with one and end with the other. And that's kind of what Fahrenheit was doing. Yeah, well, somebody's saying that they heard they ran out of money and Fahrenheit, so they wrapped up as soon as possible. Yeah, see, there's that element too. Like, you can tell it feels like they just had to cut out huge portions of the game. But the problem is that still makes the full kung fu Matrix stuff. It feels kind of stupid from where they were taking it. Like they've like the original, like, it starts off feeling almost Lovecraftian, that like he's kind of having like this crisis now because he's had like the veil of reality peeled back and there's like extra dimensional stuff and horrors to it. Well, that's like a different flavor than flying kung fu Matrix stuff, so even if they had, I'm sure it would be a better game if it had the funding, so it wouldn't feel as abrupt and just disconnected. But I think it would still go to like a dumb place. So, yeah. So it's about like your expectations. Yeah, I think that makes a huge. Yeah, like somebody was glad I pointed that out in the Trick Style episode where I mentioned like how much harder the last level is than everything else that came before it. Saying that, like, some people really do like those like really hard, challenging, platforming perfection style games. But the thing is, every other level is a cakewalk compared to that. So you're not really winning over anybody, except part of me grudgingly respects just how over the top like the final level is, compared to everything else. So part of me respects that aspect of it. But it was still way too hard compared to the rest of the game. Yeah, but yeah, okay, some other things that like disappoint. Yeah, yeah, because usually the disappointment's either more gradual, I think, is usually when, and usually doesn't happen like midway through it. Yeah, I will say if you are making a movie, or, well, I guess like, if you have to cut corners, probably cutting the middle is the best part. Because if it has a great ending, people are going to remember that. It sucks. It's rare, but it sucks when movies have like a great. Oh, that was one. Oh, what the hell? Hancock, the Will Smith movie. That started off feeling like it was going to be kind of like a superhero comedy where the guy's basically Superman, except he's like a deadbeat dad, like a bum. So there's like lots of potential for comedy there. And then like halfway through the movie, it just switches, and it's trying to be more dramatic and serious. I'm just thinking, this isn't working. This is way better. And yeah, and like kind of sad, and like I'm just saying this isn't working. Or it was kind of working. Yeah, it like showed him flying through the air, drunk, drinking like a 40 ounce. Like, yeah, like have fun with that. Like, you should have just that part was working. The drama with superheroes wasn't doing it for me. So yeah, that was one that let me down. What was another one? So yeah, no, superhero comedy that works as a concept. Just yeah, yeah. I like the concept of somebody having superpowers and it being completely wasted on that person. Because they're just too much of a deadbeat to. It's to do anything productive with it. Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. I saw this. Ever looked into Metal Hurlant comics? Crazy French 70s sci-fi. No, I haven't. I guess I could check that out. Actually, one thing I've been meaning to check out is the original Heavy Metal magazine. Because I think they kind of, the stuff that like the Heavy Metal movie was based off of. And they kind of had some of those stories in there. I kind of like that style to it. I was kind of curious about that. Or is that what, maybe it's the same thing that you're referring to, for all I know. Here, let me check. Metal Hurlant comics. Oh, maybe that is Heavy Metal. Oh, okay, so yeah. Or the style, if it's not, the style looks extremely similar. So yeah, that's exactly the sort of, oh yes, okay, so. So yes, I have not checked it out, but I want to. So yes, that's one of those things I'll get. I tend to be pickier with comics. Like, I mean, if they're comedy, I'll read a lot of them, but like the last one I enjoyed that wasn't like strictly comedy was the Transmetropolitan. I like stuff like that. Like usually if it's like superheroes saving the day. So yeah, yeah, for sure I would like to catch up on that. I probably will at some point. Let's see. Okay, okay, I should get to more questions. I'm going slowly this time. Can you draw, Ross? I can draw okay if I'm looking at something. Like, I'm decent. If it's from imagination, it's pretty much stick figure level. It's pretty rough. So, but yeah, if I'm looking at the subject, I can do a decent amount. Have there been grindy games that you enjoyed grinding? Well, I mentioned the Dungeon Siege. That was one of them. Now the chat, well, the reply under that, somebody mentioned Path of Exile, but Path of Exile is way more in the love-hate category for me because some of it I like, and other aspects I haven't played in a couple of years now. It just feels, it's way too much what they're doing for somebody who just wants to kind of see all the content. Like, because I guess what it is like, I don't mind, like, the grind I don't like is when you're kind of doing the exact same thing over and over again, and then that increases your odds of getting like some drop or something like that. I don't like that. Because like even in Dungeon Siege, you're constantly moving forward. Actually, I ran into a game I played this month. I've been meaning to play Wall World. And it was fun for sure, but then I was feeling like this is feeling way too grindy. Like they had good mechanics going in there, but then like the ratios were all out of whack to me. I was thinking like this is basically wanting me to like die and repeat this like 10 times until I can progress on this. And it's not even like a skill issue. It's more like you have to grind away to get this certain upgrade that allows you to progress farther, except that it keeps wanting to kill you and you start over from the beginning. Like that's actually like I think it might be literally impossible to like beat it the first time around, and they're expecting you to beat it like the 50th time around or something. So I mean, I don't mind a little bit of that, but they were going way overboard. And so what I end up doing is I'm just like, all right, I like the game, but this is ridiculous what they're doing. And I found a cheat engine script for it. And I gave myself a few bumps to basically turn off what I considered the stuff that was crap design in my eyes. And I beat it and I had a good time with it. And here's the thing though. With cheats, using cheat engine, I got through the game in about, let's say 3 to 4 hours. And that felt about right to me. You know, I maybe could have grinded a little more if they had changed the design. Maybe draw it out to 6, that sort of thing. And the ending of it felt like it was okay, but it felt like kind of anticlimactic, kind of rushed to it. I was thinking, Well, wait, did I have to do something to get like a better ending or something? So I went online to look and just to check the ending, like to see if there was like an alternate. There wasn't, but I checked the ending that somebody else had. Is what I got, and in the text it said it took me 35 hours to do this. And I'm thinking, okay, so I did this. It felt a nice, comfortable pace. I was enjoying myself. For me, about 3 to 4 hours. If it had taken 6, but it was like well paced, I wouldn't have complained. It looks, for this guy, just playing normally, it took him 35 hours. And it's not that he was seeing all this extra stuff. We were both seeing the exact same stuff. It's just that he had to die and keep redoing the beginning over and over and over again. I was just thinking, that's not good design. I mean, or at least from my taste, you gotta warn people if you're gonna be doing that. Just like call it a hardcore mode. Or actually, I think it had a hardcore mode on the top of that, if I remember right. But yeah, it's like I don't like that kind of grind at all. But it's the sort of thing where, yeah, because some games, yeah, if you're doing the same thing in the same place, in the same way over and over again, that's what I don't like. But see, some you can call grindy, but I don't think they are really. Like, I'm thinking of an example, like say something like Skyrim or something. That's just a game that has a whole ton of content. And it's gonna, if you want to see everything, that's gonna take you a real long time to get through it. But that's not really grindy so much. They're not making you kill like 1,000 wolves to get some necessary upgrade or 1,000 wolves in the same area too. Like if you did it throughout like the course of your journey, that'd be different, See, I don't mind that kind of grind where if it's like, I was mentioning Path of Exile, like there's some upgrades or items that you have a chance of dropping, but you have to be doing like the exact same thing in the exact same place. I'm sure there's tons of MMOs like that, RPGs. I don't like, and just do it over and over and over again. I don't like that, but like, let's say you had a game where you want to upgrade your sword. Well, you have to, in order to do that, then you have to go like up into the mountains and defeat some enemy or find some resource there and bring it back. And then you can upgrade your sword. And then if you want to upgrade like your shield, well, then you have to go to a completely different region to the deep forest or something and get some upgrades there to get your shield. So if it was like a long, slow process, but in the process of doing that, they're taking you to these different places and you're seeing new stuff as part of the grind, that's cool. I like that, but yeah, if it's just the same place over and over, just doing the same thing, yeah, I don't like that at all. In fact, I tend to be very cognizant of one that tends to like wake me up from the game. Like if it's doing that to me, the first thing I do is try to find out, okay, is this just like one rough spot in the game and it's only this spot that's like this and the rest is good? Or is this like the new normal for the game now? And if it's the new normal for the game, then my next step is like, okay, well, can I get a hack or a trainer or something so that to make this like a reasonable playtime, for what they're asking me to do? And if the answer is no, or if it's like a online game with anti-cheat, then I might bail at that point and I just go look at a playthrough and just skip past it and just see the highlights after that. Like I just have very little tolerance for that now. There's so many promising games I try to get through that it's just totally not worth it if the game's not like meshing right. Yeah. What's somebody saying? They know it's expensive 90% of the time, but Cyberpunk 2077 is a very refined experience where the map isn't as big as Skyrim's, but there's so much content. Content is so varied in how you play through it. The city doesn't feel the same. Maybe you mean expansive, not expensive. You could probably get it not too much on a sale now. It's been out a few years. Yeah, no, Cyberpunk. I didn't. There's a lot there. I have mixed feelings on that one. Like the story and the writing didn't really do it for me. But the world is just second to none for that kind of environment. I am 100% going to come back to Skyrim. I mean, the Cyberpunk, and basically walk through it like I'm a tourist of Night City in VR. There are VR mods for, but that's a really demanding game. So that one's going to be like later on the list when I know I can run it at full speed. But it's yeah. So I say I've got to play Destiny 2 now. That's on the brink of death. Well, I played through the campaign, I think in 2018, 2019, something around there. And I've heard that's completely different now. And like I tried to play through some of it, but because I think they gave it away for free on Epic one week, and I picked it up then. And I got to these tutorial levels, and then I got to the main hub area, or the first one anyway. And then I got so damn confused about where I was supposed to go next, or what I was supposed to do, that I just kind of gave up on it. And I hope someone ends up coming up with a server emulator for it eventually. Like I really tried too. I didn't just I couldn't find where to go for 30 seconds and I gave up. No, I tried for a solid 15 minutes to figure out where I should be going next. And then I went online and tried to look up guides telling me where to go next. And you could maybe blame this on Google search or something. I just couldn't find something very coherent. So I got so lost, on where I should go, just starting a new campaign after you get to the hub area. So, so I think they could use some usability work for new players. and this is me. I have already played through the Destiny 2 campaign from 2019. So yeah, I forgot some stuff, but I'm not completely lost on how the game works. It's just, there was so much crap and so many sub-menus. I'm like, okay, do I go to the same planet? What? Wait, I was already at this planet. Do I need to go back to this? It's... So, that's pretty bad. I mean, yeah, people could say, here's the thing. People could say I'm just clueless, and maybe that is the case and I missed something obvious, but I really gave this an honest try. So if I'm getting lost, somebody more clueless than me is getting lost too, so. Somebody's saying, Ross, please don't say that you were lost or the game publishers were forced devs to make even more easier games. Well, here's the thing. I was able to figure it out in Destiny 2 2019. And the thing is, you don't need to make the game easier. You just need a little, let's say there's a question mark on your HUD somewhere. You click on that and you just say quest log. Where should I go? Main quest. Where do I go next? And then give the name and the location of where you should go. This does not have to be, and you can hide that from regular players. This could be something that you have to go out of your way to click on. I'm fine with that. Yeah, I don't know. It could be I had to go back to a place I had already gone through, and I was thinking, well, that can't be right because I already played through that area. Maybe that was the problem. I don't know. Anyway, Destiny 2 is still just an art I mean, the environments that are still just an art masterpiece, though. So I really hope that ends up getting a server emulator at some point. I mean, that's just... Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, the people are mentioning the yellow paint. Yeah, I've seen that in some games. I don't like that. That reduces immersion. See, there's a difference. I just needed to be told, where is the next level? That's all I needed to be told. Not how to navigate through the entire level. With the yellow paint, I think that's the sort of thing where if you have that, you should really have an option to turn it off. And that's really not, as someone who has made mods, that's not for for civil protection. That's not a world of work. I mean, maybe depending on the engine, where all you have to do, like if I was doing this in Source, you have like the texture, you have your normal texture for the ledges, and then if you're adding the yellow paint anyway, you have that as like a separate texture you add on, and then you have like some options in the menu to toggle it, to point which one you're pointing to. That's it. So I'm fine with the yellow paint as long as you can turn it off. If you can just turn it off, fine. Everybody wins then. The people who are clueless, they get their yellow paint. The people who want to just, want more of the immersion and, take in the game, they can turn it off. Everybody wins. So, yeah, mandatory yellow paint sucks. I'll say that. Yeah, well, somebody's saying that it feels like they're treating players like they're incapable of figuring anything out on their own. Hey, you know what? Play devil's advocate. Maybe some of them are. But for me, I want to get immersed in the environment and like the story. When I see the yellow paint, to me, that's kind of saying like, it's kind of ripping me out of that immersion. So like, I mean, I don't care if they're, like, I don't care if they think I'm an idiot. What I care about is like, I'm not getting immersed in the world now or the gameplay experience. That's the part. So, yeah, just if you have yellow paint, make it toggleable. Don't let people turn that stuff off. You can have it enabled by default. That's fine. If you just have it in game options, ledge highlighting or something on off, yeah, like that's such an obvious way to solve it so that you can rope in everybody. Oh, yeah, somebody brings up a good point. It was, yeah, sadly, uh they're saying there's a lot of people who need guidance. I don't know if you watch people play games. I generally don't know, but I am someone who watches streamers play through games. People are so focused on reading chat and putting up on a persona that they fail to pay attention and screw up blame the game, especially in this modern stream it all era. Yeah, if people's attention spans are so poor that they have to account for that, it's like, yeah, that's rough. Because, I mean, I don't know. I think the way to deal with that is you just have to make a good game that if you are giving it your attention, I mean, and by just normal attention, I don't mean you have to like figure out, unless it's a puzzle game or something, figure out every last little thing, but just you're basically paying attention. You'll play it through and you have a good experience. Then when the streamer does that, then the chat will call out the streamer. You have basically, you can't cave to the streamers complaining about it, that it's like they can't figure it out. And I've heard some streamers, they like to play into that because that gets people frustrated with them, and they get more reactions of viewers of people wanting to see what dumb thing they'll do next or something like that. But yeah, you can't cater to the low attention span unless it's meant to be like a low attention span game, like oh geez, there was one first person shooter that was like really rapid, had like lots of flashing colors. I forget the name of it, but yeah, yeah, but yeah, even if streamers are complaining about it, like I think if it's a really good game, they'll just think, okay, well, this streamer is just hopeless. Then I think that's the solution. They can't cave to the, people saying it's too, unless it really is too hard, or too hard to figure out. But you know what? They have, with as much telemetry as games are collecting nowadays, then they should be able to figure out if that's what's happening, or God forbid, have some playtesters, you could find someone who just doesn't know a lot about the games and give it a try, that sort of thing. Yeah, and I think you might be aiming for the wrong goal too, because the goal is not to ensure every single person gets through the game. The goal is that the people who want to play the game are having a good time. That's kind of the goal. So, because if you're just trying to accomplish objectives, well, then it's turning into work or a chore. You want to get drawn into the experience. Yeah, but no, streamers are at or at least I am, from when I've done game sessions on stream, they're at a disadvantage in the sense that, their attention span is split. So, okay, somebody's saying a really good streamer can multitask. Yeah, they probably can. Some people are really good at that. So, and people are watching for different things too. Like if I was to watch a streamer, I would probably be watching for like the, funny reactions or commentary, that sort of thing. Like I wouldn't be giving a damn about their gaming performance. Well, I guess unless it was just like they're one of the best in the world and they're doing things like you couldn't dream of doing. That would be the other end of it. If their skill is so high that it's just kind of a spectacle in itself. Yeah, I've seen a couple clips like that too, where somebody was playing Skate or I think it was Skate, one of the skateboarding games, and he was pulling all these just effortlessly tricks. And at one point, he's even skateboarding on like the ceiling of a tunnel briefly, and then not through any hacks or anything, just because he built up the momentum to kind of coming up a hill to get some airtime on the ceiling of the tunnel on a skateboard. So yeah, but stuff like that, that's impressive. Here, I think there's a clip of that. I'll add that in the YouTube description. I'll find a link later. Okay. Okay, well, they're asking about the... Wait, okay. Okay, no, I skipped ahead by accident. Oh, I skipped ahead a lot. Okay. Do you have a preference for how a game, board, video, other should use random number generation? Somebody's saying none. Deterministic playthrough from start to finish, doing the same thing always leads to the same result. Seeded apparent randomness, which all boils down to initial RNG result, like shuffling cards for a game of solitaire, but a specific set of inputs on specific seeds. More hit chance, drop chance, chance to I think all three can be fun. It's the sort of thing you got to play test to figure out what kind of game you're making. I mean, I'd say if it's really random, the player kind of needs to know that. Like, that kind of needs to be part of your advertising, but, and hope, and have the really punitive scenarios be kind of rare. So they could still happen, but they're not going to be the norm. It's not like super random means half of every run through is completely unplayable. But I mean, you can have a completely linear game with like a great story, or just even great gameplay that it's even kind of rails shooter-ish, that it's just still a fun time. I don't. I mean, it just depends on the kind of game. I could easily enjoy all three of those. I think for like the really random ones, I'm kind of expecting sort of like a roguelike experience. So I would want, I don't know. I guess with really random, you can have, I think people have done that with Dark Souls, where there's like a randomizer mod where like any enemy could be any enemy from the game or something like that. So you could just have a boss walking along at the beginning. Yeah, that could be a way of giving some freshness to some games. I could see that too. But yeah, no, I really can enjoy all three. It just depends on the game. Have you ever heard of Black Dahlia? in their opinion, is the best full motion video point and click ever made. I have a copy of it. I just haven't gotten around to playing it. So that might bump that. That endorsement might bump it up some. So. Since you're doing this on the 22nd of November, what's your take on the Kennedy assassination? I didn't realize it was on the. I didn't know the date. I'm not, but like this, I'm not into it enough to know that was the date. I think I'm hardly an expert, but I think it's highly unlikely. Like if Oswald was I think it's highly likely Oswald acted alone, if it was even him, because there just seems it. I guess the things, geez, who is it? Is it Oliver Stone? I think he had he did the JFK movie, but like since then, I think he did like a documentary follow-up. I haven't seen it, but I heard about it. That apparently there was all kinds of things that were really sketchy about how it was covered. And like the fact that we still have documents on it today that are sealed that says like this is real shady what was going on, so I think it's highly likely it was a conspiracy to take him out. Now as for why there's Kennedy was doing enough things that there's multiple options. I think like the most likely candidates that I've heard are one, well, he wanted to end the Vietnam War. He wanted to really rein in the CIA. That's another one. And I think he also wanted I think it was like lobbyists from Israel declared as like foreign agents. So look, any one of those could have led to him being taken out. There might even be another one I'm forgetting. So there was a hell of a lot of motive, I guess, for this to be more than just Oswald. And like, I forget all the specifics of it. And some are saying, there's like, I haven't dug in deep enough into it to know if like the zigzag bullets is like a misrepresentation, or if that's like if you were to take the official statement, that's what would have to have happened. So yeah, I mean, if you talk about conspiracy theories, that's one where that's not the Earth being flat or the moon landing. There's a lot of suspicious activity behind that. So yeah, I have no, I guess I don't care enough to know what the actual specifics are, because I guess if I even know it, then like what do I do with that, But there's a hell of a lot of supporting evidence that there's a conspiracy behind it. So let's see. What are your thoughts on the outcome of the Stop Killing Games British petition debate? Yeah, well, we talked about it at the beginning. Like, it's not gonna. I'm glad at least some members of Parliament got the issue right. That what we were asking for. I mean, forget whether they agreed or not. Just that what we were. They weren't trying to like spin it like we were asking for something else. Yeah, it's not going to happen, I think, legislatively in the UK, but we might have that kind of workaround thing that I was talking about for where it's not impossible people in the future UK citizens buying online games could get them just all refunded when they shut down, But, I mean, they have to jump through hoops and fill out forms and stuff like that, but you might be able to start gaming for free for those types of games. So that would, again, not what we're aiming for, but if every game you buy, you either get to keep it or you get your money back, that's certainly a step in the right direction, but we'll see if it gets there. It's still kind of a mess, like with it. Oh yeah, and some people were pointing out, like, again, I think the statement from government was coached for them by the industry, but if not even written directly. But people were talking about, yeah, they made us, the representative there said that, you agreed to the license agreement when you click I agree. And in the old days, you did that by opening up the packaging to the physical game. Well, that ignores the fact that license agreements do not override statutory consumer rights in the UK. So that it's kind of like highlighting that this is, I mean, what was the art? I think they just, personally, I'm taking the cynical route. I think they're just trying to put that narrative to get everybody, basically say, everybody sit down and shut up. This is always how it's been. So you're not entitled to anything. Whereas if you're taking it at face value, what they're saying is, well, we've been breaking the law for decades. So yeah, come on, guys. We're really going to change the law now? That's kind of what they're saying if you look at it literally. I think they're just trying to put out the talking point that, like, this is normal, so sit down and shut up. Don't, forget all this law stuff. Like, what is this, government? So it's there is nothing in UK law that I'm aware of that you're entitled to keep the game, but for them to sell it to you and you just give no time frame and then disable it, that's the part that there are laws that you're gonna have to do some mental gymnastics to say that, like, this is okay under the existing law. What's a lot easier is just to avoid it and never deal with it. But if we can get a statement from the Competition and Markets Authority on this, then that might be what it takes. So. Yeah, so somebody's saying they think destruction, subjectively speaking, forms of art is already bad enough. Not getting refunded vinegar is the vinegar in Ross's food unpalatable. No, well, see, the thing is, I'm always focusing on these chats and discussions on the consumer rights angle because, yeah, the art preservation or cultural preservation, that just has no teeth legally. Like the laws just don't care. They don't care. But if you pay for money and you're getting ripped off, well, laws in many countries care about that. So it's just become sort of a habit. I talk about it from that angle, but that's not why I'm doing it. So, and let's see. Do you think whatever the UK does or doesn't do could influence the decision of the European Commission what the games industry will lobby for? Well, I mean, the games industry is already. It almost felt like they copied what they said in the UK from out of Video Game Europe statements, of chunks of it. They just paraphrased it. So I think that's already happening. But as for the EU Commission, I mean, it might influence them, but it's different law. So, if you can't sweep it under the rug the same way, to the same degree you can in the UK, where I'm trying to think of an analogy to this. Yeah, okay, like, say someone, like, how on the Autobahn, there isn't a top speed limit, but in the US there is. So if you were to drive 150 miles an hour on the highway in the US, even if Germany said that, like, no, this is reasonable as long as you follow these safety precautions and everything, that doesn't matter. The law is just different. Like, so you can't just ignore that, like, from regulators. So you have to undo the law. It's not a perfect analogy, but you get what I'm saying, is that, like, they can't pull these same tricks. Well, they can attempt to pull the same tricks that they're trying to do in the UK and the EU, but at some point, the law is a law, and it just becomes about enforcement then. So, what's the longest you went without a change of clothes? I'm not sure. It might have been a few days at Boy Scout camp. Like, so. But then not more than a couple days. I think I did have changed clothes, though, but I think I had changed the clothes, but I didn't have access to a shower for a couple days. Not a fan, you know. There's someone saying, which video game pet do you think you can tame? They're giving dog from Half-Life, potty pigeon, the rabbit from Armed and Delirious. I think nothing about the rabbit from Armed and Delirious acts like a pet. Like that's. I don't know. I don't. I can't. And then in the chat, somebody's suggesting Harry Buster. You keep him in a cage. I don't know. It's not the sort of thing I'd have much of an opinion on. Okay, I'm getting some questions I've answered before, so I'm gonna start skipping some. Let's see. Oh, this one's saying, in Freeman's mind, they were surprised to hear in episode 59, all they've been doing so far is running into walls and acting angry at the world, and now they're playing Punch and Judy with the bodies. Got me wondering, how familiar are you with the works of Jan Svankmajer, which I might be mispronouncing, and which of his short films would you say are your favorites? I don't know the association, but you got me to look it up. Punch and Judy's a lot older than that. I mean, Punch and Judy goes back to, I looked it up. It goes back to the 1600s. You know, it was a puppet show that was done as entertainment, you know, where the couples are, the puppet couples fighting, they hit each other to entertain people. So that goes way back, you know, so I wasn't actually, I think I'm not familiar with the director you've mentioned. I'm seeing these movie titles. I'm not sure I've seen any of them. So sorry to disappoint, but Punch and Judy is even more old school. Yeah, they're saying, I've noticed Game Dungeon tends to follow one or two different styles. Linear, where you give a play-by-play of your experience in a linear order, and non-linear, where you go topic by topic instead. What is the thought process behind deciding which style to choose from game to game? I feel like I kind of fail a bit the more linear ones I'm doing. It's like I haven't been fully conscious necessarily of what I'm doing in every episode, and I just sort of stumble into it. So I might try to go. I'm trying to do linear, but sometimes I'm trying to do non-linear, but I fail sometimes. So I'm trying to get better at it. So we'll see how I do in the future. I mean, some of it's tricky because it kind of depends on what I want to talk about. And some of it is the game plot. And if you don't have the context of it, then it may not work at all. But then I gotta go overboard on it, and then I'm just kind of walking through everything. And then it's like, well, maybe that's not as enjoyable. I don't know. I'm trying to do better at it though. I'll see. It's like I want it to have like some flow to it without feeling like I'm just copying what's in the game and then that's it. So I need to work on that more. I'm still trying to figure it out. Okay, so he's asking, should the life counter in a game end at 1 or 0? Man, I don't know. I mean, well, I guess when it's 0, you know for sure that you have no more lives after that. And if it's 1, you're not sure. Is kind of, because I've played so many games that I've seen it in both styles that I just don't even assume it anymore. So he's asking, well, this wasn't a question, but I guess they wanted me to talk about the Deus Ex remaster. I honestly haven't followed it much. I just watched that trailer where, yeah, it wasn't great. It didn't make me really want to play it because like because people were saying like how bad it is, and the thing is, to me it kind of felt like an that's what it is. It feels like an incohesive side grade because there were a few things that were a little better, but then some things are worse. So it's just kind of like, I don't really like that much. Because the original, it's more cohesive. And this is just like, well, higher definition doesn't always mean better. Yeah, oh man, if I can find that meme. I don't know if I can off the, let's see. Oh, great, I found it. I got lucky this time with search. I'll put this in the chat. Yeah, okay, so here's what I'm thinking of. This is exactly what, yeah. Oh, wait, here's the chat, yeah. Let's see, yeah. So on the left, you have like the original, but it's like low resolution. And on the right, you have HD texture pack, where some things are higher quality and it just isn't cohesive at all. And that's what it feels like. I'll have a link to this in the description also on YouTube. So that seemed like a mess, but yeah, what gets better is I think it was it IGN or GameSpot? I forget which trailer. I think it was IGN. I might be wrong. Where even their trailer was bugged. Like they're showing stuff scrolling, and then there's like garbled, and then it just cuts ahead. And like I think they might have gotten the sound. Like they didn't even preview it before they posted it. They just rendered it straight from their editor. It had errors, and they just put it up. You know, I'm usually exhausted of it by the time I do it, but I always watch every episode before I put it up on YouTube just because of that. In case I made like a big mistake, I'm thinking, oh God, I need to go back and do it again or fix that. So I'll have a link to that trailer too. So yeah, even the trailer is bugged. Like it is just, so yeah, that's a real great sign. I guess now's the time I don't think it's out yet, but somebody's making a mod for not only Deus Ex, but I think several Unreal Engine games. Like for sure Unreal and Unreal Tournament, maybe Rune. I'm not sure if they're doing Clive Barker's Undying also or not, where they're adding kind of like tasteful lighting options to it. What makes me way more excited is I think they're gonna be adding native VR interaction to Deus Ex for that. So they're keeping the graphics the same, but kind of tastefully updating some textures and some lighting. Yeah, it's called Surreal 98. Here. So, and that looks like it's gonna be a better experience. I mean, with what? Let's see. Oh, okay. The chat's going somewhere I'm kind of interested in here. They're saying, so it's UZ Doom's first GitHub comment was removing the texture filtering default. Yeah, yeah, I guess if you want the software rendering look, but I actually like texture filtering for the most part on 3D games. You know, for pixel art games, I mostly like the unfiltered, but I might be warming up to like some of the CRT filters. I'm undecided though, because I don't like blur, but I like I like how it sort of creates the illusion of more fidelity to it. So, but if I have to pick, so far so I usually play it like without texture filtering on for 2D. But I mean, so yeah, the Deus Ex remake. Yeah, it looks like a mess, and it's kind of like a waste of everybody's time for the Deus Ex remake. Because I mean, there'll be a handful of people that, yeah, the people who buy it are the ones who don't know any better, and they're thinking like, oh, okay, I'll play this game people have talked about, and so they're getting kind of screwed on it. And then there's gonna be a minority of people who play it just to see how bad it is. And then I get it's gonna be. I don't think they're gonna get great sales. So all the people who are working on it, they're just gonna get. they're just gonna get a lot of negative comments about it, so they're not gonna feel great. But I guess it's a paycheck for them. So it's let's see, it's well, the discussion about texture filtering will come up in a future game dungeon, I'm pretty sure, but probably not the next one though. But yeah, I like no, this just isn't a good use of anyone's time involved. Yeah, like my advice, if you want to play Deus Ex, just get the normal one. I guess for probably GOG be better, but like Steam would be fine. And I think look up a DirectX 10 mod for it, and it'll update it and it makes it a lot easier to use. Helps with the HUD, up. Well, I guess the GOG probably fixes stuff anyway, but the DirectX 10 mod is fine, and then you can play it through pretty normally and it'll be fine. Like it scales the HUD to good dimensions. And again, I will 100% replay Deus Ex in VR once that Surreal 98 mod comes out. Yeah, actually, with playing Sin, it made me. It feels different. Like because that's a game I've played. I've played the beginning levels of Sin at least half a dozen times before. And I'm playing it again, and like, yeah, this all feels different. It's like I'm there. So, man, nothing breathes life into old games, like for old 3D games like that for me. So, I'm definitely gonna cheat for some parts. Like I've made it up to the infiltrating Syncor's building. I'm just straight up using no target and no clip for that part. That stealth portion is the worst part of the game. Like so I'm just trying to get through it as fast as possible. But the rest, but even then, this sounds dumb. I was even enjoying just walking through the hallways of that because it feels like you're kind of there, and it's just so fresh for me for games that I'm kind of familiar with. Okay, let's see some more. Okay, more questions. So I'm saying, what's the most infuriating bit of creative writing narrative moment you've ever had the displeasure of experiencing? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't even have to be bad per se, but just something that was still insulting or aggravating that just really soured your mood. I don't know. I think I'm getting better at getting over stuff that bothers me. Skipping a couple. Okay, do you play chess or any other strategy board games of that kind? If yes, what do you enjoy the most about it? If not, why? Would you be willing to learn how to play in the future as a way to keep your mind sharp as it ages, if nothing else? Yeah. Oh man, maybe I'll do that next chat if it comes up. I saw this question and I meant to. In third grade, I won a chess tournament for my age division. And I think like there's like I think I got a trophy and like the medals. I think the trophy's back at my parents' home, but I think they sent me the medal for it too, so I can bring that up as proof. So I know how to. I'm not a chess master now though. That was I was 9 at the time, so I know how to play chess. I played some of Go. I guess Go is kind of more interesting. What turned me off? I played chess a little bit longer after that, but what finally turned me off about it is I heard to get really good at chess, you have to kind of memorize like lots of board layouts to like really up your game to sort of know kind of like what situations to get in and get out of. And I don't like that as much. I mean, I've never been big on rote memorization. If I need to do more, if I'm doing more rote memorization at this point, I can think of 3 things I'm going to use it for. One, or just anything like essential process I need to learn, like taxes or something this isn't going away. I need to learn how to do this. And then maybe playing music, learning songs because that's kind of enjoyable. And learning Polish. I need to learn a lot more Polish because that's practical. And that's a whole lot of just memorizing. So if I'm going to be memorizing lots of things, I want it to have some real purpose. But yeah, strategy Go's interesting. I mean, I wouldn't mind playing more Go. And yeah, that's for keeping my mind sharp. That's a bit of my plan for old age with 4X games, because those can get kind of hardcore with like learning all the rules and intricacies and all of them. And some of them I really like the premise of thematically, but there's always such a high learning curve. But if I was actually retired or something, then it's like, okay, well, I should try to learn all this stuff as a way to kind of keep my brain more active. So I figure 4X games are probably going to be the winner for that sort of thing. Let's see. Have you ever thought of doing Film Dungeon, talking about films or TV shows? Also, will you do a game dungeon at Alan Wake 2? Well, I don't know. I'll have to play Alan Wake 2 to see what I think. Actually, I need to thank them. I'm behind on emails. Someone was nice enough to gift me a copy. I think they had one left over from a Humble Bundle. So, yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out. Though I feel like that's one I won't be able to play it without either upscaling or frame generation. That one was like, I remember reading that one was like really demanding when it came out. And as for Film Dungeon, look, I'm struggling to keep up this with Game Dungeon and Freeman's Mind. I got to get more just regular videos out without taking on more. Plus, with movies, you got to play YouTube copyright bot games like way more, where it's just like, oh, you showed 8 seconds of the video, time for a copyright strike or claim or something, even though what you're doing is completely fair use. Oh, sure, you can fight it and try and get it back up again in a month from now after you've lost like all opportunities for income. So it's harder to deal with. Actually, that happened to me last minute on Alan Wake, the episode. It would have been out a few hours earlier if this hadn't happened. I uploaded a part I thought might have been at risk earlier and it was fine, but I was cutting it so close, which I didn't mean to, man. Like the last week of that was like, I started on that in late September. That wasn't enough time to get it done smoothly. Like I was doing a week crunch leading up to getting it out on time. Well, technically it wasn't even out on time. That's like the latest I've ever had for Halloween. Like it was on time, USA time, not Europe time. It was November by the time it came out. But so I uploaded it, and then during the part where I'm talking about the music and comparing it to Twin Peaks music, I had a small snippet of the Twin Peaks music, where you're overlooking like the sawmill and that sort of thing because it blended in. So that is fair use. That is definitely fair use for how I'm using it. I'm directly contrasting how it sounds in Twin Peaks compared to the game and talking about that. It got copyright flagged and would have like killed all monetization for it. And they talk about how it also would have killed it algorithm wise. And so I'm just thinking, oh damn it. So I went in and just extended the Alan Wake music, and that passed the check, and then it stayed up. So yes, 10 seconds of the Twin Peaks music theme with me talking over some of it. That triggered it. So man, it's just, and the thing is, I would be in the right, but you have to take away all the income from it. That's a pretty harsh disincentive. So yeah, and the chat's asking, did you hear about Gamers Nexus copyright takedown on their GPU documentary? Yeah, I didn't really look into the details. Like, I almost didn't need to because I played this game before where, yeah, because they had a clip of the president talking about something related to the embargo, then it sounded 100%, like, from what I heard, it sounded completely like fair use to me. I didn't go in and watch it and find out the nitty gritty of it, and it's just ridiculous. It shows that there's definitely a power imbalance on this stuff. And the thing is, there is a simple solution to this. It would never happen because of the power imbalance, but the solution is for there to be a financial penalty for having a false claim. So if you claim something and that it turns out, oh no, that was fair use, what they were doing, then you have to pay a penalty. If you did that, and then you can make it, you can maybe find a way to add some proportion to it. Because then if you're rewarding people for having the false claims, no consequences, well, of course it's going to continue. So yeah, I forgot about that. So the Alan Wake episode, that got censored slightly, you know. I think there was something else I was considering putting, but then I scrapped it. I remember for Culpa and Nada, I wanted to show a clip of football fans fighting each other in a parking lot because I thought it was funny, but it was not a brutal fight. It would have been, but YouTube creates a chilling effect. So, there was a question about the gravity gun. I don't know if I've gotten to that one yet. Let's see. Well, I'll get to it in a second if I haven't. Okay, so why do you think you have such a fascination with games? What made you into a gamer and make videos on them? I mean, I don't know. They're an aesthetically stimulating experience. Yeah. Okay, and I've answered this one before, but wow, that's weird. Okay, Reddit's changed their style. I thought it was getting towards the end, but then it completely expanded. So, so I was asking, I kind of answered this one before. Would you be able to trust a perfect clone of yourself? Yes, absolutely. And then this person's saying they would consider killing him because he would try to kill me at some point. And they say they know that's circular logic. Well, hey, if that's what you think, no, clone and I work great together. We would figure it out. So. How did you manage to avoid the first enemies in Alan Wake? Well, you don't in the tutorial, but like the first few ones, like the first ones you see that beyond the tutorial are before you go up that ledge. There are two guys there coming for you. You can run around them and get up the ledge. And then there's some enemies after that, and you have some ammo. I didn't avoid all of them. It's like when they're just crowding at me from all sides, well then, you know, if you were to play Resident Evil like that, if zombies are coming at you from every angle and like they're blocking the path, okay, yeah, you gotta fight. So yeah, I shot those, but then I went a little farther, and then when it was a little more open, I tried to run because that felt like an area I could run past. But nope, or yeah, well actually something I cut from the episode for time, the method of dealing with the enemies that, you know, you can do it even if you don't have any ammo or batteries, is you walk backwards from them, and then when one of them charges from you, then you do like the high beam for just like half a second so you don't drain your battery, and that's enough to stop them temporarily, and you just kind of keep walking backwards from that. I didn't figure that out till much later. Let's see. Since the Cave World episode, have you found any more games with cave worlds? Well, there's a few. I mean, well, the big one I think of is Torrance Passage, but what was it? Cave Story is the cave world game. There's a bunch of games where you're going and digging. You're just going through like caves, but I guess they're talking about like a full like world inside there. I can't think of many outside of Torrance Passage, but there might be some. I think there were some Journey to the Center of the Earth games, based on that. So yeah, that's another famous one that has like you can basically see underground. It's its own little world. Did you ever finish The Division? Yes, I did. Well, as much as a solo player can, there are a few of the cooperative parts that they're just not possible as a solo player the way it's set up. Ever try The Division 2? No, I've really mixed feelings on it because I feel like they're just gonna kill it. And it's like, well, I kind of do want to play it, but then I kind of don't want to give money to it, so I'm just kind of divided on it. I don't know. I'm interested in it, but it's like it's like I kind of have low expectations for it. Like I don't expect I'm going to get a good story. I expect the gameplay is going to be okay, and I expect the environment's going to be impressive. So it's kind of like, yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, the division, the stuff I talked about in the first one, it kind of wanes off and it becomes much more like, arcade like, so it's still kind of fun though, you know. Now that the 3-month verification process is over, can you confirm that we have enough valid signatures? I haven't checked the answer, but I haven't been worried about that for like a month. Like because we were seeing the percentages come back and the numbers were all pretty low. Yeah, what's the number? I think we could lose something around like 40%, or maybe not. Let's see. Oh yeah, that was kind of hilarious when let's see, one divided by one. Oh, come on, 1 divided by 1.43. Okay, yeah, so we can 40%. We can lose about 30% of the votes and still be fine. And we hadn't got all the numbers back, but the range was like from like 3 to 8% for most countries or something like that. So I wasn't worried about that because the numbers were kind of making up. I think Germany had a big number ratio, but actually I'm not sure how much on this I'm allowed to say. So I'm not worried at all about this. So no, I can't give you an official thing, but I'm so confident it'll pass the signature threshold, I would bet money on it. So, Yeah, the funny thing that was funny, when upgrading Windows 10, I remember reading about this, but I kind of forgot about it, that like they got rid of calculator. So I had to look up a substitute to add a calculator back. Yeah, but Microsoft makes lots of questionable decisions. Yeah. So he's asking if I've played any other Crystal Dynamics games. And they mentioned the Gex games. Gex is the sort of thing, like I saw some of it. I never really saw much more than Gex out of like back in the old days when it would be like on display in stores. And I think I would have liked them more as a kid. I mean, I might try it now, but I'm kind of pickier with platformers now. I have to like really like a lot of things for me. I mean, there's still plenty I like, but I'd have to take another look at it to see if I like really get into it or not. For Crystal Dynamics, didn't they do well here, let's see. I'm even drawing a blank on the name. Crystal Dynamics games. Did they do Eternal Darkness? I don't know. Well, if they did, I started playing some of Eternal Darkness. I liked how it was starting off, but then it kind of was giving me kind of a sort of a time wasting feeling. Okay, who did Eternal Darkness? Okay, that was Silicon Knights. Yeah. Yeah, I recognized a bunch of the voice actors they used in Kane. And yeah, okay, so that's not Crystal Dynamics. Yeah, I haven't gone through the Tomb Raider games. I don't know, they never quite grabbed me, but maybe I'm missing out. Actually, maybe I will do Tomb Raider Remastered, because that look, from what I saw, that looks like they were doing it really tastefully, like that remaster pack that they released. and do that in VR. So that would add some pizzazz to the game for me if I were to play it in VR. So yeah, maybe I will do Tomb Raider like that. Uh, if they did, they did Blood Omen 2. I've I was playing some of that in VR also. Yeah, Blood Omen 2 is great. Oh yeah, well they mentioned Legacy of Kain. Okay, I'm mixing it up, but I could look into Gex sometime. But yeah, I ended up watching a playthrough of the rest of Eternal Darkness. I played it. I gave it about an hour. Yeah. I played it until I got to Rome, and then I was just kind of not digging it as much. I don't know. It's a game with some good ideas and good elements, but I think overall, it for someone who never played it and just coming to it after the fact, it kind of felt like a game that was kind of a chore. So, okay. Skipping some I've answered. Someone's saying, if your life were to have end credits, what music would it be? Well, one of my favorite end credits themes is from, I can't remember if it's the first encounter or second encounter, but from Serious Sam. It's like it starts like dee, 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 and then it builds up to like this kind of like upbeat rock thing, and the tone of it's great. Like the feeling I get from that music, from that tune, like especially with the distortion guitar, it's like that's exactly the feeling I want from beating a game. Like it just nailed it. I'll have a link to it in the description when I post this on YouTube. But yeah, I mentioned that in the Journeyman project that like, the Serious Sam was better, but the Journeyman project had the right kind of tone too, where it's like, dun, 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 like it's like it feels like a really satisfying ending, you know. So like, another one that's like, I forget the exact context of it, but from the original Resident Evil 2, the credits roll of the staff, it's like dun, 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 dun. Like that's another good kind of theme for it. Like, so yeah, it's just kind of like upbeat. It's like reflective and upbeat, fun, energetic, that sort of thing. So. You mentioned in the past, Soul Protection wasn't necessarily always intended to take place in the Half-Life universe. That was the most convenient setting at the time, given the tools available for making machinima. What are some alternative settings you could see Mike and Dave in? What universe do you think you would use if you had first started the series nowadays instead? Oh, well now, geez. I don't know, like what, I would probably just go straight to something like iClone. What is the easiest to make machinima now? I don't know. I mean, that's almost the sad part, is that, like, if you just want people running around, then there's several games. But if you like want to animate them with as many shortcuts as possible, like that, the fact that Source SDK is still competitive is sad. Like that's because it seems like. It seems like there would be a market for that, or maybe I'm just missed the developments as of recently. But like 3D, for my experience has been like, I keep kind of checking every few years to see what's out there, and I haven't seen like great stuff. But it could be I missed out on a bunch of stuff the past few years. But 3D animation should not have to be a total chore the way it often is, if you're not going for like bleeding edge quality. You just want to like animate some characters. So I did want faceless guys in helmets though for that, because that takes a lot of animation work out of it if you don't have to do faces. That's actually going to be a challenge for the movie, figuring out a good system for that. But yeah, if a starting point would be iClone and then just import assets from some game. Yeah, like some other candidates I had were Doom 3, Fear. I mean, I guess we could do Halo, but I figured Red versus Blue already kind of dominated it at the time. Yeah, just something with people. I need to play it, but I'm kind of curious about abiotic factor. That looks, because they're going for the Half-Life aesthetic, but that might have a interesting, might have a good aesthetic going for it. What's the biggest bottleneck in producing Game Dungeon videos? Is it playing the game, editing, volume normalization? Do you write a script and just add voice as you're editing? Yeah, the latter. Well, I don't have voice as I'm editing. I read out the script. I think it has to be audio, because but that involves multiple steps. There's recording it. That recording it doesn't take too much time. I mean, it all takes time, but like you were talking about bottlenecks, the things that kind of hold it up. Video editing can, depending on what I'm doing. Like most of them it's not, but some parts can be more of a hassle to edit. Like I wasn't sure. Yeah, there's two things that can kind of hold it up. One, for video edit, it's still audio. Audio is still the big one. Like when I did the Alan Wake fitness challenge, that part took more editing than most of the rest of the episode. And I wasn't even sure how that one was going to come out, because I needed music for that one, and I wasn't sure where I was going to find it. The music I originally wanted to use was there. I'll have a link to this in the description. There was this parody commercial. I think it's called, like, was it Big Bill Hell or something? Or they do a parody. Yeah, that's it. They do a parody of a car commercial where they're just basically just making it as antagonistic as possible. I had like this kind of like sporty, kind of like let's do it kind of 80s style music to it. I thought that would go well for it. Yeah, some people have seen it from the chat. So I found the music for that, but that one was like record label licensed, and I'm thinking, oh geez, no, if I'd use that, that's probably gonna get flagged and I can't do it. And it's not just that I can't use it. I would have no clue how to go about trying to get a license for it. And then my guess is if I were to get a license for it, it would be thousands of dollars, which is going to be more money than the entire video is even going to make on its own. So it's just like not even achievable. So I got lucky though. Another one I was considering was some stuff from Sonic Heroes that was like fast and upbeat. But I got luck. That was my second choice. The one I went with was the stuff from Nightmare Cart, because the composer for that, I didn't find it till, I even tried to contact them, but I didn't get a reply or their group or whatever. And so I was thinking, geez. But then on another one they had on YouTube, they said this is fine to use for projects as long as you give credit. So I was like, yeah, I'll give credit for sure. And that part's kind of hilarious in the game. That whole game's kind of hilarious, Nightmare Cart. It's basically, if you took Bloodborne, made it a kart racer with PlayStation 1 graphics. So, and the music is so is discongruent the right word I'm thinking of? It's the music does not fit the visuals, but it does so in a comical way. So, and the music's pretty good throughout the whole soundtrack's good. But I remember that part just kind of stuck in my head. I was like, yeah, this will work for this. So yeah, that can be a hang up on some episodes that actually has me worried because I never know how I'm going to solve it. Is when I do need outside music, like, can I even find it or something I can use? That's becoming harder and harder for me. So they're saying maybe check out unlicensed YouTube music. So V11 used it all the time. Well, I can look through it, but I kind of don't want the themes that people have heard like a million times, you know, from other videos. So usually if the game, like the rule of thumb I try to use is if the music was never sold, that's a real good sign you're not going to get in trouble for using it. So, but once it has an official soundtrack, you can run into problems. Yeah, and Nightmare Cart was originally going to be Bloodborne Cart, but Sony made them change it. Well, okay, I haven't played through Bloodborne. I'll probably will in some fashion eventually, but from from the visuals, the fact that they had to change it to the Nightmare Cart, I don't think they had to lose much of anything. So it feels like Bloodborne for sure. I mean, aesthetically with the visuals. Yeah, the music's all really. The music would fit into like lots of kart racers, you know, real upbeat, you know. Yeah, and that part was hilarious because when that music plays in the game, you're chasing him. You're chasing the antagonist in your go-kart, and he's just running. He's just like running really fast away from you. It's in like a kind of a comical fashion. So I've heard. I think I read that's actually very similar to how the boss fight actually goes in Bloodborne. So okay, I should. Did I lose my spot? Uh-oh. Okay, yeah, I lost my spot. Nuts. Okay, and okay, wait, here we go. Let's see. Oh yeah, well, this is a bad one to bring up late in here, but saying, what is your opinion of the extraction game genre? I don't fully know what that means, you know, because like on one hand, like my first thought probably isn't what it is, where it's sort of like this was in Team Fortress Classic, but is actually was in the beta of Counter-Strike, or maybe they added it back as like a mod, where you protect the VIP, where, you know, so you're kind of extracting the VIP from the area. I've heard others, it could mean like the dark zone in the Division where you gather some gear and then you bring it to a spot and then you have to kind of defend that spot. Or it could mean like something like Left 4 Dead, sort of, where you're just trying to move from one place to the other and shoot people as you go. So I'm not even sure what or I've heard others say it's more like a battle royale where, you know, you're trying to move to with an enclosing area. So I'm not even sure. Most of these I'm not. Well, I can answer that. Somebody's saying, what's the strongest GPU that still uses the old power connector? I will tell you, the NVIDIA, it's the 3090, not the TI version, and an AMD, it's the 7900 XTX. I think the 7900 XTX is probably the fastest between the two. So I just know that one off the top of my head. So yeah, I kind of like the protect the VIP modes, but the others, they've never quite won me over, but maybe they what maybe the right formula could give me, yeah, because I played some of, was it Deep Rock Galactic, that might have been an extraction shooter. I'm not sure. I didn't quite get into it, but the sort of Left 4 Dead-ish games have never really been my thing. I don't know. Something about them doesn't quite click with me. But yeah, and if I were to help for the power connector question, if I were to hold a crystal ball, I would say AMD's next fastest card, whatever that ends up being, will support the old connector, and NVIDIA's will not. That'll be my prediction. So I think I might like extraction shooter stuff if you don't have like much of a time pressure to it, and maybe you do stuff with the stuff you extract, like you know, have like part of like a base building thing or something like that. Okay. Well, yeah, and let's see. Oh yeah, so back to the bottleneck. Okay, so for the audio, the there's the record the audio, that doesn't take much time. There's reprocessing, there's sort of trimming down my takes because sometimes I don't get the lines right, and so I have to kind of cut it and then put it together. I've been getting pretty good help with that from Spencer Cardillo. He's not always available though. Sometimes the old ones I used to do it all myself, but that takes some time. Then after that, I kind of have to listen to it and check for like the pops and they're what I call them like micro clicks. Sometimes I don't get them all, or they're really hard to filter out. But it's like I'm talking to be like and that sort of bothers. It's like even tinier than what I'm saying though. So that's the sort of thing I should look and see if there's an algorithm that can just scan for that hopefully doesn't distort the audio, because there's algorithms for like big clicks. I don't know if they have them for like small ones though. That'll just automatically process it. It could get like 95% of them or something. And then there's the what? After that's done, I start putting it into editing, and then there's the volume balancing, which again in the chat, Master Cookie's been saving me on multiple times. But I kind of hate inflicting that on him. So because I hate that part of it. And on top of that, even once I have that, it's easy for some episodes, it's a hassle for others, where I have to adjust the volume of the video clips themselves against the. Well, if he doesn't mind it, I'll keep sending it to him, man. Except I keep screwing up, and it ends up. I'm gonna try and. Yeah, I should really focus on the Christmas episode as soon as possible after this, so I don't have another like last minute thing. I hate the time pressure on it when there's a deadline on. So yeah, he's been doing a pretty great job on that. Though even then, we still have to figure out. Sometimes when I'm doing this shouting lines, I have to come in manually after it. I don't think we have a good ideal process for dealing with those. I kind of have to fiddle with it. That's something I need to look into more. Basically, what I need is a smart compressor that doesn't make my voice sound really weird. So it mostly leaves things alone if I'm just talking normally. But if I get real loud, it knows how to handle shouting. So it's a little louder, but not really, so. Let's see. Yeah, that's the biggest hang up. If I can solve that, that's gonna make the entire the less I have to do screwing around with audio, the happier I'm gonna be. And I guess the thing is, I've been using Premiere I think it's called ducking of what Premiere's volume adjustments clips are kind of a nuisance. I really either that or I need to find a better method. What I really want is just be able to just turn a knob or something, or just like. It's like I have to do all these little steps for just something simple, and that adds up. So the less I have to do with processing audio, the smoother. That's going to help the time on the episodes. That's going to help my morale. It's going to help everything. So yeah, that's easily where I need to find more solutions on. I mean, maybe I should switch away from Premiere, but I haven't found any. I haven't found other video editors that let you do lossless exporting. If people know of them, feel free to tell me. Emails rosswscott@gmail.com. So. At what point is Stop Killing Games done? Have you ever gotten any contacts from publishers demanding that you stop doing it? No, that not from publishers. I've gotten several from really angry random people, but I mean it's there's stuff where it's done on my end and then it's like done for as in we exhausted everything. Done on my end, I was hoping it'd be done by now on my end, but there's still stuff I'm having to do with the EU especially. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that I'll talk more about this after a lot of it's over, but when it's done, that could be years from now. But if I don't have to throw my time at it, fine. So, because we need to rewatch the end portion of the end of Stop Killing Games. That kind of talks about there's a few more things that I wasn't aware of or that emerged with the EU, but that's mostly that list I give towards the end of that video. Talks more about it. Will you ever use AI to remaster your old videos, for example, to pause Freeman's Mind episode 1? I'm not against the idea, but I'm not sure if it's there yet for that kind of material. Like you can kind of tell it has like that AI resize look where it just looks a little soupy. Like I've seen some really impressive AI remasters, but they're usually doing it from like better source material. So I'll do it if it looks good enough, but I might be too picky on it. So thoughts on tiling Windows managers instead of a desktop environment? And they're saying, if unfamiliar, check out DWM, Xmonad, Hyperland, etc. You know, I think that's that's not necessarily. I mean, that's still a desktop. It's like that's not necessarily like an either or thing. I think that's better for people who do like a lot of multitasking and need a lot of windows open at once. And I did a check quick. I noticed like 95% of screenshots that showed tiling Windows Manager, they had list of code. So I think this is more for programmers that need that, but I'll see. Yeah, if I was going to throw shade at Linux, I think it needs a lot more input from people who are not programmers on usability. So I think they might be surprised at what they get. Some of them might be surprised. Another chunk of the Linux community would say, well, their words are worthless to us. Like, so they don't care what people who aren't developers think about Linux. But that's not going to get you more viewers. I mean, that's not going to get you more users. So. Somebody's saying, Freeman's Mind 2, there are some lines by Gordon that give off the feeling they are references to Half-Life 2 beta lines, such as I should have come by boat. I can guarantee you they're not, because I barely know anything about Half-Life beta. I've seen some screenshots. I know that, what the hell is it? That transparent blue tentacle thing is in it. I've seen some screenshots. Like, I barely know anything about it. So if there is, it's a coincidence. Yeah, they're mentioning the original Borealis idea. I've heard of the Borealis. I saw it mentioned in that Half-Life Episode 3 leak. Half-Life 2 Episode 3 leak. I don't know anything about it beyond that. So, yeah, you would think I would know every single thing about Half-Life. I don't. In fact, I've become kind of saturated with it. So, I know. I probably know more about the source engine than I do about stuff that's in Half-Life that's not in the game. So. The Hydra, thank you. Yeah. Are there any Christmassy games lined up for Christmas Game Day? I'm giving up. Unless one that really, if it happens, it'll be a coincidence. That's what I had in the, State of Mind, I think. So it just won't be like aggressively against the spirit of Christmas. That's the only. Yeah. So we won't have it won't be a killing floor Christmas. Have you thought about how you'll handle Gordon's distaste for the gravity gun in Freeman's mind when the game makes you use it a bunch towards the end? Well, I don't think he doesn't have a distaste for it. He just doesn't think it works. You know. I remember I remember when I played it, I was disappointed. Oh, this doesn't work on the enemies. You know, like to me that was like the whole like to me that felt like I was let down when I first played it. I have not played the Darksiders games. I may try them eventually. High Moon. I don't know about the High Moon Transformers games. I've played. Let's see. Oh no, that's. I played a real old one on Commodore 64, but I mean I could maybe. I could see maybe playing one of the Transformer games. I think there was one where you're on Cybertron, so that would be kind of neat to see, like the robotic world. But yeah, I've only seen the first. I should keep going. I've been going way too long here. Okay. Do you prefer when a game is intentionally funny with a well-timed or clever joke, or when it's unintentionally funny? Which one makes you laugh the most? I guess if it's really done well, the intentionally funny makes me laugh more. But I mean, either can be good. It's just, you know. Though unintentionally funny is probably better with like for streaming and a crowd of people. Should I buy a Chrysler? I have no idea. Asking the wrong person. There are thousands of people on the internet, if not millions, who will be happy to tell you. This is a good question. I'm just kind of low on the list getting to it. Oh, okay. Well, no, here I give you the speed answer of this. What do you think are the biggest threats to human civilization right now? Because they think the AI stuff's overblown. Okay. Well, check out my list of AI risk. I have a corner in the image I made. Okay. Russ's AI risk. If Google will take me to it. Yeah, here we go. Here, you might have to click on a few links to blow up the image, but here, yeah, look in. Yeah, here, I'll read off what I have. Yeah, risk, I think, are a much bigger threat than AI. Okay. Oh, come on, it's not zooming in. Damn it. Okay, there we go, zoom in. I'd say nuclear warfare, ecological collapse, decline of resources essential for maintaining current level of society, toxic pollution, contamination, global economic collapse, so some of these kind of tie into each other, but mass hunger, homelessness, lack of healthcare, conventional warfare from resource competition, unpreparedness for a coronal mass ejection, it's a Carrington event, a super virus emerging, failure to deflect a giant asteroid from colliding with the Earth, though I've heard the odds ones are pretty low on that one. Super volcano eruption, so like Yellowstone or something. So yeah, that's AI is causing problems for sure, but it's not the biggest threat. At this point, I'll pretty much bet any amount of money we're not going to have the singularity and the equivalent of Skynet. Unfortunately, you can't bet on it unless you're betting by time spans, because if you're right, it never happens, and if you're wrong, well, then nothing matters. So, but no, I'm convinced it's not going to happen. Yeah, well, they mentioned peak oil in the that's related too, but you could kind of file peak oil under economic collapse. It's like a different flavor of it. Yeah, and like food production is the big one for that. So okay, yeah, I gotta get real more aggressive. I gotta get aggressive on the questions now. This was a decent question, but I'm gonna kind of skip it because we're running out of time. About like what other gaming crack games for me. Skipping some more. Yeah, my wife's knocking on the door. Okay, so. Let's see. Okay, well, go ahead and type live questions in the chat with the @Ross broadcast. I'll try and get a couple, and then I'll end this. So I had to skip some more. I have played the first. Someone's incorrect, if you can believe on Reddit. If you can believe that. Have you played the first Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines game? Okay, no, I'm incorrect. I misread it. Because the first one, I think, was the Redemption. That was before. I played Redemption and Bloodlines. I haven't played the new one. I heard it wasn't very good. I don't know if it's just that means that it's just bad, period, or if people were expecting the same level of interactivity as Bloodlines 1. So. Oh man, this is like a good. Okay, well, this person posted at the end. They have a big question. Okay, well, it's related to Stop Killing Games. Okay. Okay, I'll try and speed run this. Okay, that probably should. If you could answer via Reddit, though, man, Reddit, it's not a great place these days. You being an American, why do this process through the European ways and not the U.S. legal procedures? Well, we tried Australia and Canada too. I tried all ways. There's just no openings in the U.S. on this. The only opening is if you have somebody with deep pockets who's willing to fund lobbyists, probably for years, to change the law in Congress. I don't see that happening. Or at least I don't have that kind of influence. What arguments have you heard against the initiative, and what do you say to them? I think it's people. I've talked about this a bunch. You should check out the. You should check out the Stop Killing Games FAQ video, not the developer one, the earlier one. The Stop Killing Games, where it says like 40 questions answered or something like that, or 39 questions answered. Does this initiative force the companies to keep selling the game? No. This initiative also collides with the idea of buying a license versus buying the game. No, it doesn't do that. The license has to sell you some rights to begin with just to play the game in the first place. What this is doing is saying that you can't take those rights back. So the easiest example is an author owns all the rights to their, if they write a book, they own the publishing rights, the intellectual property rights. They can't come into your home and take their book back. That's basically what we're asking for. This initiative will force stores and companies to sell you a copy, not a license. No, they would still sell you a license. How would security work? It doesn't matter. The security works because it's saying play at your own risk and give a disclaimer, and we take no liability. I mean, there's other there's community options, but it doesn't matter. It just says play it. Like, how does security work if you're driving an old car that doesn't have airbags or, well, I guess you have a police. There's probably a better security example. Oh, how does security work for Windows 98? Okay, if I connect to Windows 98, I'm going to get hacked on the internet. They discontinued and end support for it. That's how it works. And you just have to, that's how it works. The same way it works for like Windows 98 or Windows XP. They don't support that anymore. So, you just communicate that clearly and absolve yourself of liability. Try to think of it as a developer. Yes, I've never done this before. I've never done this. I've not thought about this. How you make this available on console? Watch the developer frequently ask questions. The consoles would have to adapt if they wish to sell in those markets. The consoles basically have to allow the customer to connect to an IP address, essentially. So the consoles would have to change how they do things if they wanted to sell in those markets. So, will this apply to all companies? I mean, we're not distinguishing it. If it didn't apply to small companies as a way of getting it through, that would still be a victory. That would be a compromise. But there is a correlation between how big the game is, between how big the company is, and the odds of them making an online-only game that you have to connect to the publisher to run, because that takes a lot of resources to set that up. So the smaller the game, the more likely it is they're already compliant. This mainly prosecutes online game. Well, you say prosecutes. We're trying to get protections here. So yeah, this mainly concerns online games. But what about old retro games that can only be emulated? If it's not impossible, no, I don't think there's many examples like that, because, like, okay, let's say a Commodore 64 game. They discontinued it back in the 80s. They didn't come into your home and take the game away from you. If you kept it in pristine condition, you can still play it. So it was never an issue. So it's another person confused on it. So yeah, I'm just trying to rush through this. So all right, and now I'll check the submitted questions. Sorry about that. Yeah, so saying we don't have Terminators yet. Even if we had Terminators, it wouldn't be like Skynet, you know. They would just be like military. It would be more like RoboCop. you know, military drones that are like contracted out, that sort of thing. Have you watched Pluribus? No, but I'll check it out eventually. Do you like shorts? What's your opinion? I like YouTube shorts kind of thing. I'm assuming not the kind you're wearing. I've actually kind of don't, because I feel like those are like an assault on my attention span. And if I just watch a bunch of those, then it kind of wears me down in a way I don't like, and it might make it hard. It might make it harder for me to focus on like long form content later. So I'm trying to avoid them now. Oh, do you have any opinions on Zoran Mandami winning election for NYC mayor? For any politician, I'm assuming it's kind of guilty until proven innocent, that they're going to follow through on much of anything. I've heard some speculation that he'll probably do a rent freeze, something other mayors have done. So it's not even that radical for New York City. I've heard like you might have some forces kind of conspiring to have some bank and loan or economic disasters happen on his watch, because it'll make him look bad. I don't think he's going to be that radical at all. I'd be happy to be proven wrong, but I think he's just going to be another typical politician that's just has a more progressive bent to him, economically. So I'm just assuming in general politicians aren't going to do things to help you in a substantive way until proven otherwise. Because we have seen other politicians talk the talk and then not walk the walk before. So he might do a little bit, but too many questions to cram in. Like, if you have never driven a bicycle, what's the longest time you have ridden a bicycle without intentional rest? I don't know, a few hours. What do you think Mars smells like? I don't know. I don't know. I forget what the composition of it is. Do you have Unreal Engine installed? Not at the moment. It's been off and on. I for sure will get it back on once I'm working on the movie. What do you think of games like Lethal Company and Repo? I haven't played either of them. A lot of people say they're good, but they're kind of co-op focused. I've been doing more single player. What do you think of 6-7? I think, isn't that like a meme for like Gen Z kids that it doesn't mean anything, but they think it's funny? Whatever. Every generation does their own stuff, you know? It's kind of like saying "damn Skippy" or "oh snap" from my generation, I guess would be a way to look at it. What's your relation to caffeine? Do you do it daily? How much? I take almost none, really. In fact, I don't even take chocolate now because ever since that report came out that basically all chocolate brands had some level of lead or cadmium in them, I don't remember if it's cadmium or cadmium. I just stopped because I want zero of that. So yeah, I take basically no caffeine. Sycophantic one I'm skipping. Musk is an ego-tripping person. Why are you on Twitter still? Do you think you have an alternative to social media, even just to announce things? Fine. What's the big social media to use instead of Twitter then? I don't have an obvious. I feel like if I don't know, then there isn't one. You know, it's like by the time I know, then it'll be like well established. The problem is nobody's dethroned it. So someone's saying coffee, yay or nay. I love the smell of coffee, but I don't need it, especially as someone who doesn't have caffeine. Oh, shorts. Yeah, I work like cargo shorts, you know. You ever had Game Storm? No, I don't know what that is. I think there was that Shoot Mania had something. There's some shooter game that had Storm in the name. Have you ever watched the Angry Trumpet Guy, Doug Levinson video? Levinson video. No, I don't know that one. Okay, I'm talking again. I better end it here. That video's coming. I'm working on it, I swear. See you.